Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say a pleasant good afternoon to all the royal viewers. I want to say we're so happy that we are here again this week for another episode of Real Talk with Ian and Ian. We're always so happy when we could just, bring someone to the program that can inspire, educate, and motivate you. And today you are going to get a special program because this is one of the best success story that I can remember. Uh, you know, there's so many of them. So but we want to give a special shout out to this one today because I have the privilege to know Dr. Neil Gardner for more than 30 years, more than 30 years. So I'm about to celebrate a birthday next week. So I'll be 47, and we've been running in high school since the age of. I start running at champs at the age of 16. And when you talk about Neil Gardner, and we're gonna let him tell you a little bit more. I'm not gonna say it anymore. But before we hear from Dr. Neil Gardner, I'm gonna hand you over to the health and wellness specialist, Mr. Ian Thomas.
Okay, guys, we just want to say welcome again to all our followers who've been following us for a while. And this afternoon, as we always do, we always find someone who is able to educate, motivate, and uplift. I still hear a little echo there, but we this afternoon we have Dr. Gardner on with us, and sadly, I've seen a comment already from the Stets family. And that's saying, guys, we should have been there for the 25th anniversary. So I just want to address that one quickly because we like to be open. So for me, everybody know I'm a cricketer. So I was out very late playing cricket and just coming in straight into this program, guys. So we sorry that we missed the state celebration anniversary, 25th. That's alumni. So we're just saying, I want the state family, you guys could jump on there and from. We could always watch the replay, but that's how life is. We won't be able to attend everything, but tonight we're just proud to be here again another night and to be bringing with us, Dr. Neil Gardner, another Olympian and an overachiever. So, Dr. Neil Gardner, we just want to say welcome to the program and we'll talk with ear and ear.
Yes, can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we are.
All right, good. I decided to use this thing since you guys are having a little echo. It might be on my side.
Yeah, yeah.
So let me just. So, Ian's good to be here. Good to be here. It is, I love the work that you guys are doing. It's innovative. It's creative, and I just hope that we get a lot of viewers. Because the more people that have access to this information, or the information that you are helping to bring to the fore, is the more lives that we can transform and inspire. So, real thing, big up yourselves for real talk.
All right, all right. So, man, we got as usual. What we like to do, we like to go all the way back. We like to have a little history, a little grassroots of how you was existed and how where you from and where this whole energy all started. So I'm trying to figure out if I
Energy
should
is
go.
right.
I,
Energy is right.
I'm trying to figure out if I should go to the prep school days or I should just go straight to the high school days.
Well,
You
one
can't
thing.
leave out anything here. Dr. Gardner, I think you gotta take it right from grassroots.
Well, I can tell you this that when I was in high school, well, prep school, I didn't really make any athletic team at all. You know what I mean? I
Wow.
I was not athletic in any way that I was aware of. That was something that people competed at. Because in prep school, I tried out for football. I didn't make the football team. Tried out for the track team. I didn't make the track team. In fact, the closest I got was I was named the reserve on the 400-meter team because they allowed two people to go to champs at the time, and they only had one 400-meter runner, and I was the only other person. So they said sure, but then they kicked me off the team for talking just before champs, and it's unfair, because I mean anybody who knows me know that I talk a lot, right? Um, and this has always been the case. But at that time, one of my good friends was named to the team. So I shouted out his name when I heard them call his name for the team. I was just excited. And when I called out his name, the coach said, "All right, enough for you," and run me out of the place. And so that was the closest I came to representing my school for champs in prep school age. I wasn't fast at all. Ian, Ian with an E, I understand that you did high jump.
I like not something where I talk too much about, so you continue.
Well, high jump was my thing. Um, Weekly would tell you that I was a field events man when we were good friends growing up, and when we went on the track, different track teams together, Ian was always a runner, I was always a jumper. So it was kind of like that. And back then, this would have been in the mid 80s. I didn't have high jump or any field events at the prep school level, so I had to try to run, and I wasn't a good runner. And even I can't say even now because I know Ian would destroy me now. I saw Ian send a video of himself running a 500 meter. Well, he looked like say the lactic acid hit him somewhere around 300, but in finish, I could tell you for a fact that I cannot run 500 meters now. Even if I jog, I'm not going to make it around that thing. So hats off to you, my brother.
All
Anyhow,
right, all right.
um, as it turns out, though, when I went to Wolmer's, I tried out for the track team. Well, I didn't try for the track, but I was tried out for sports day. I tried every single sporting discipline at Wolmer's and didn't make any. Swimming, table tennis, everything. Didn't make any. Church camp. Hey, hey, you know, Sean is a virgin still. Garrett is my virgin, so him just about me about church camp.
All right.
No, I couldn't do well there, so either. But when I got to high school, the year before or the year that I started track and field, I did the high jump for sports day. I finished third. The two boys that finished ahead of me were last year class three athletes, and they were already training with the track team. So when I tried out for sports day, I finished third behind those two guys. And this was 6 weeks before champs. And so the coach, Stephen Francis at the time, asked me to try out for the team and to start training because I was in my first year class three. The expectation was that if I were to start training, maybe by the following year, I might be able to medal. Well, at the time it was feet and inches. So for sports day, I jumped 4 feet 2 inches, which is not high. Actually 4 feet 6 inches, not two, 4 feet 6 inches, which is still not high. And that time you have to be jumping over 5 feet to have a chance to make it to the finals at champs. Well, final selected me to go to champs for the experience because one of the two guys decided that he wasn't going to train. So because I was training, he said, "All right, go ahead, get the year of experience under your belt so that eventually you can do something for yourself." Well, it's the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. And this is something that I've never really shared with Ian or anybody else as such. But I was never a good competitor in anything until champs of that year for track and field. If I was playing table tennis, I would every tournament that came, I would be so nervous that I'd be shaking that I couldn't control my hands and I would just hit the ball off the table all the time. Everything I tried out for. Once it came to competition, I would tank. But for whatever reason, and I still don't understand it to this very day, when I went to champs in 1988, not only did I jump 5 feet, I jumped 5 feet 5 inches, and I was able to finish third at champs that first year. Um, the person who finished first turned out to be an overage athlete, so effectively, I finished second at champs that year. The following year, I won high jump at champs, and I broke or equaled the record. That was the year I also went to CARIFTA Games. So for champs of that year, I jumped 1.80 meters, which was 5 feet 11 inches, I think. But that was the year after Gilbert, and because of Gilbert, CARIFTA was pushed back to later on in the summer. So it was, instead of being in April as it usually is during Easter time, it was pushed back to August of that year. And so by then, school was out. I had to be training myself, and I improved my PB at champs from 1.80 meters or 5'11" to 1.91 meters, I think it was, which was 6 feet 4. Whatever 6 feet 4 was. That's how high I jumped at 14. So I was able to make the CARIFTA team. Then I went on the following year, got second at champs in the high jump, and then after that is like when puberty hit, everything just transformed. I mean, I was always a good jumper, but when I turned 16 and went to second year class 2, I jumped 2.05 in the high jump, which is 6 feet 9.25 inches at 16. I jumped 7.29 meters, which I think was 23 7 inches or something like that in the long jump. And I did 110 hurdles, and I ran, the record at the time was 14.24 meters. But I broke that record in a 4.7 headwind.
Oh, I didn't even know they have a
Yep.
wind reading back then.
They did. 4.7 meters per second headwind. And it's unfortunate too, because I'm pretty sure I would have gone under 13 seconds, under 14 seconds, and shattered the record and been even more impressive. But you know, it is what it is.
All right.
So that's how it all started.
All right. Well, we couldn't ask for a better introduction than, what you gave us, because your memory is actually better than mine, when it comes down to the class 2 days and the class 3 days, and the whole thing. But if we're going to start talking about Wolmer's Boys School, we got to find out why Wolmer's. How did you end up at Wolmer's Boys?
It's an interesting question. It's a very interesting question. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about it. Why you asked that question?
No. We always try to figure out. Some people, was influenced by. I mean, just got selected, and family, and they, all different reasons. I know that my story going to Stets, it's a heck of a story. I mean, because I'm coming from Montego Bay, I never thought that I would have ended up. I wanted to go back home. I didn't want to stay there. It was like a punishment.
And I always enjoyed going to Santa Cruz for the trap meet. You had a guy there, Blake. What was Blake's first name? First name? Mr. Run Quarter.
Mark Blake.
Mark
Gregory
Blake.
Blake.
No, Gregory Blake, man. Gregory Blake.
German. Okay.
Yeah, man. That guy was a nightmare, man. When you go to States, I used to. When my coach sent me to run the 300 meters, and I'm a high jumper, and I end up in a race with Gregory Blake. He doesn't want to turn back. But not Dennis Blake. Hey, Dennis, glad to see you joining in. Dennis was a little older than us, so Dennis is a joker. We have good stories with Dennis, so can
Yep.
talk about
Yep.
medicine later on.
Yep.
But I got involved with Wolmer's in a way that I would say it's only could have been orchestrated by God. I don't see any other way of explaining it. So I have to take you back to when I was 10 years old. This is just before I took common entrance. Now, many people might not know of me, or what many people might not know of me is that I'm somewhat of a nerd, right? When it comes to bookwork, it's something that kind of just came easy for me, academics. And I wanted to go to the best academic school that I could go to, right? Most of my friends were going to Campion College. And so Campion was my first choice when I was doing common entrance. And Woolmer's was my second choice. And did common entrance January of 1980, 86, 85, sorry, January 1985. But in December of 1984, December 18th, 1984, I was getting ready for Christmas and I was trying to shave a piece of plaque that my mother got as a gift. It had bark on the outside and the bark was stripping. So it didn't look very pretty. So my Christmas present for her was that I was going to shave off the bark because underneath it looked smooth. So I was going to just remove the bark completely so that at least it looked uniform. Well, a piece of the bark broke off. A piece of the bark broke off and burst my eyeball. So I ended up damaging my right eye, requiring surgery on Christmas Eve. I did surgery. Um, I could not study all of Christmas because I was in the hospital. When I got out of the hospital, I went back to school in January and I moved from being in the top of the class in grade five. Well, not just top of the class, but I topped the school in grade five. To now grade six, getting ready for common entrance, and my entire academic performance dropped way, way low. And it took me just those weeks of working really hard to try to get it back up there, but I still didn't get it high enough. So I could not qualify for Campion College because my grades were not high enough. But thank God I was able to pass common entrance still, and I was able to pass my second choice, which was Wolmer's. So I keep telling persons that had it not been for that eye accident, which to this day I'm still legally blind in my right eye.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting story. I'll tell you another piece of that story to the end.
Hmm.
But I'm still legally blind in my right eye, which is interesting because all of the events that I did required depth perception, which you lose when you're using vision from one eye. Um, but I went to Wolmer's. Because I went to Wolmer's, I was able to work under Stephen Francis, got to do the high jump, be a part of an excellent program, qualifying not only for champs, but getting a scholarship to the University of Michigan to run. Um, I had an injury, a groin injury, that stopped me from jumping, which was very devastating to me because I love jumping. Um, and the only other event that I could do, because I wasn't fast enough to run a flat event, was to run the other hurdle event, which was the four hurdles, which I started in 1995. And that year, I was actually able to qualify for NCAAs in the 400 hurdles, and I hadn't at that time qualified in the 110-meter hurdles, which was my better event. But being a jumper, my legs were really, 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 really strong. And for whatever reason, I could travel very easily. I mean, travel is, maintain your speed while you're running without much effort, and going over the barriers was very easy for me. So it gave me an advantage that made up for the fact that I wasn't very fast. I made up for the fact that my endurance wasn't the greatest. I didn't have endurance like people like Ian Weekly. But the advantage I had was that I was extremely efficient as a hurdler, and so that allowed me to make the Olympic team with the following year and made it to the semifinals of the Olympics. At 21 years old, I ran 48.30 seconds. Um, but to this day, I haven't been able to come close to that time.
Well, we're gonna talk about we're gonna have to dissect some of the '96 season, and I actually did not know that you started the herders in '95. So that's something new. I would have thought that you basically started the herders in '96, but anyway, it's one of the greatest track and field story that anyone who want to talk about or who have never heard about it. I promise you, whenever you get the chance to watch this program or anyone that's watching now, I mean, when we talk about you know the best season that you could have, and at the age of 21 years old, that's even was more impressive because the future was looking so bright. I mean, you could not tell Neil any that he wouldn't have probably go to four more Olympics, at the
Yeah,
time. But we'll
that's
talk
true.
about that. The next question before I get over to Ian, I know we just want to talk about the University of Michigan. Still, always want to find out why the University of Michigan. It could have been, I
It-
mean,
so okay, so it would have been George Mason.
oh, okay, okay, okay. I was
I
going
don't
to
know.
say that jokingly. I was going to say
No,
that jokingly.
yeah, it was gonna be George Mason. In fact, I was recruited by Dalton Banks the year before in '95. Oh, sorry, '92. Um, and I would have gone up. I went on my recruiting trip with my, best friend at the time, Simone Garrel, and she ended up staying. We both fell in love with the campus, but I decided that at 17 years old, I would have been too young to go off to college. So I decided to stay another year um, at high school. So that's how it turned out, Ian, that we had our, 93 season, I think we had together in high school as our last season. But I was to have left in '92 to go to George Mason. But the very, very last minute, I had the contract in my hand, ready to sign and everything. But I was not. I was just saying, I didn't want to leave Jamaica so young. I wanted to just spend a little longer, and so I decided to stay. Um, the following year, when I was re-evaluating my options, I decided that going to a school that had so many Jamaicans would probably be more of a distraction for me because I'm so sociable. Ian can tell you, I'm like a social butterfly. I I just love. I don't have malice with anybody. I don't know of any one athlete that I would compete with or compete against that was a rivalry or a rival that I didn't have a very, very good relationship with them. I mean, Ian was my bona fide brethren from before I started doing four hurdles. And Ian will tell you that even while we were running the four hurdles, only when we line up before the gun goes is the only time we're not talking to each other.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we're when we're warming up, we're just virgins right through, you know. And that's how it. I think that's how it ought to be, really. But that's just the nature of who I am. I'm very sociable, and so I felt like if I went to a school that had so many Jamaicans, I would probably end up spending my time just hanging out and talking and not pushing myself hard enough. And I figured that if I went to a school that was warm, then I'd probably be outside and partying a lot. I got an offer to study at a school in California. I think it was Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley. Um, and I said, nah, the weather looked like it's too good. So I decided, yeah, I wasn't gonna go to Berkeley. And I said, where is the weather bad enough that I would be forced to have to stay inside and study? And when I looked at my options, Michigan. And when I looked at the number of Jamaicans that were there, very few Jamaicans were there. And so I said, you know what? Sounds like a winner. So my choice for Michigan had nothing to do with the athletic program being excellent or the coach being good or whatever. It was more to do with the fact that it wasn't, I felt like it was an environment that would force me to work hard.
So you didn't check the school record or anything. You know.
You know, the year before I went to Michigan, we finished, I think, ninth out of the top 10 in the Big Ten. So if you know, the Big Ten is. So I said we were in the top 10, you know, but we finished ninth. And when I came there, there was another athlete that got there from Canada, Kevin Sullivan,
Oh,
who he was a real superstar now. And so he would be a middle to long distance runner, cross country. And I was recruited as a jumper hurdler. And so that's kind of how I ended up being a part of that program. And between the two of us, we kind of helped to reshape how Michigan did. And within a couple of years, Michigan was actually um, Michigan was actually able to finish fourth in the nation at NC's. I think it was the year that I won indoors at NC's is when we finished fourth. So yeah, it was good times, good times.
all right. We're getting a whole lot of comments on here, so we want to welcome all the viewers. We want to just take some time to welcome all the viewers, and we're so happy that you take the time to just tune in to share some of your evening with us, and we hope that we're able to inspire, educate, and motivate in some way. All right, over to you, Ian.
All right, Dr. Gardner, as I sit here and listen to your story, very inspiring. It's already captured me. I'm just here listening to you and Ian as you speak and talk about through disappointment, speaking through injury. But here we are, Dr. Gardner. So, what I really want to know, taking it back, who would have been your early role model? Because it seems like you have somebody very positive that you looked up to that would have basically let you hang on even despite some failures along the way there.
Wow. I had different people at different times that were my motivators. Certainly, the person I looked to, and most people would not know this name unless you are an avid track and field fan and you are totally into the high jump. I don't even know if Ian with an E knows this name. Franklin Jacobs. Do you know who Franklin Jacobs is?
I don't know.
Franklin Jacobs was he had I think he probably still has a world record. Maybe Stefan Holmes might have broken the world record now for the highest height jumped over your head. I think he was only 5 feet 8 inches tall and he jumped 7 feet, I think 7 feet 8 inches or
Wow.
7 9 and change at 5 feet 8 inches tall. And see Richard Butler now jumping in. And Butler is one of my bigger brothers, not just in the sport but in life. Is one of my mentors. So, big up Richard. Good to see you. But Franklin Jacobs is somebody in my earlier days is somebody I looked up to as wanting to emulate because I'm only 5 feet 9.25 inches. Ian probably doesn't even realize that I'm that short. Did you realize I'm that short, Ian?
Well,
No,
we
nine,
gotta we
nine
gotta
and three
find out.
quarters.
Well, we gotta find out your legs or longer those because some people have short torso, but they got long legs, and some
Yeah.
opposite. Some people got long torso and short legs. So we know when it comes down to especially running the hurdles, with me, I know I have a long neck. So it's I can't run with this here. I mean, so the height you got to be. Now that I get older, I could look on body types and I could see a little different. You're a chiropractor, so you pretty much. We never get treatment when we was running, really.
No, and so you asked a question. You know, one would have thought that I would have had 4 Olympics afterwards. But it wasn't until I think about 3 years ago that I thought about what could have happened to impact my athletic career so drastically. And it wasn't about the fact that I came back home to Jamaica, because when I came back home to Jamaica, I was training with Coach Coleman first, who was an excellent coach, and Coach Stephen Francis, also another excellent coach. So it's not coming home, it's not the coaching that was the problem. And in part, clearly, there's some me in it. Um ah boy, Vaughn. All right, so I'm going to talk about what Garrett just said here. So we're going to this comment here is an important comment to but a good observation. But just the same, um, what was I talking about? Because this short thing.
The early role model.
All right, so early role model. So
Yeah.
Dwight Stone, Franklin Jacobs, Dwight Stone, Merlin Ottey. Merlin Ottey was a role model of mine. In fact, she was somebody who inspired me when I was at the '96 Olympics. And Ian, this is something that you didn't know. So when I ran the 48:30 in Atlanta, I did it in lane one. I'm legally blind in my right eye. Remember I told you, right?
Yeah.
Early.
So in lane one, you're in the furthest left position of the track. Everybody's on your right hand side. By the time I got to the eighth hurdle, I had already caught the pack because I was coming from behind, right? So I caught the pack at the eighth hurdle. And just as I did with NCs, I kicked it home hard. And I thought that I had passed the pack, but there was one person that was decidedly in front of me. I'm trying to remember who it was that won that race. But then I was in second place.
I think it
And
was Derek Atkins that won the
no,
race.
Derek won the other heat.
Okay. Sorry. All right.
So I think it was Calvin Davis. So it was Calvin that won that heat. I was about 3 meters behind Calvin. I After the last hurdle, I didn't run home hard because I felt the finals was gonna be coming up, so I didn't want to overdo it. So I felt like I was ahead of everybody, and when I leaned at the tape and looked across, turned my head to look, I saw 4 other faces looking back at me.
Oh.
I finished fifth in that race. First was, I think, 48 12 or something like that. I think Calvin ran. And second place was 48:28. I ran 48:30. So second, third, and fourth place were 48:28. I was given fifth with 48:30, 200ths of a second outside of second place. And if I had just seen where they were and just run to the tape, I would have been in that final. And I felt very strongly that I would have done fairly well in that final. At that time, 48:30 ended up being the 6th fastest time run at the Olympic Games. And it just, unfortunately, is that 4 out of the 6 people who ran faster than 48:30 were in my semifinal. If I were in the other semifinal, I would have been in the final.
Yep. And to see like a Calvin Davis went on.
He got third.
I went on to win a medal, and you was improving each round,
Yep.
and you were just on a roll. I mean,
It was a great
yeah.
showing, and it was. But I felt so. I said to myself, you know what? I'm only 21. I'm the youngest in the semifinal. I'm not worried about it. Come Sydney, I'm gonna destroy everybody. Because Ian will tell you, you don't reach your prime in 400 hurdles until you're 27, 28. That's when you really, when everything is seasoned and settled and your technique is honed and your body is strong, that's when you reach a peak. So one of the things that I found out happened was that when I got back from the Olympics that September, somebody slammed into the back of my car. Like, I mean, I saw a friend of mine on the road. I stopped the car suddenly, and somebody just, whoom, tore up all the back of my bumper of my car. So even though the person ran into the back of my car, I still think it was my fault, right? But he should have had more distance. But anyhow, and what I learned thereafter, the injuries that I suffered, um, hey Michael, I have to talk about Michael McDonald as well, right? The injuries that I suffered from that accident, the whiplash injury, the following year, it just started to impact me more and more and more until it got to probably by the time I got back to Jamaica, 98, 99, it was ridiculous. I could not understand why it is that I'd be running and getting tired at paces that I know I'm not running hard. And it wasn't until I started doing um, chiropractic that I started to understand the relationship between the nervous system and the functions of the brain, or the functions of the body, and how the two interacted with each other. And it was at that time I was like, oh my gosh, that could have played a role in the decline that occurred after that year. And it was really, really sad because, I mean, I felt like I was training better in 97 than I was in 96. And things were really doing well. I was running fast. And it's just one of those things. But yeah, so yes. So as Sean Garrity is reminding us, um, aka Vaughn, Badman Vaughn, I have to challenge you about something going on. But this is off the air.
It's real talk, man. You can't talk too.
Vaughn, there was this girl I used to like from the same church camp that Vaughn was talking about. And I used to send message with this boy to tell this girl hi for me. I didn't know so the boy like her too. And this boy, bad mind son, Vaughn, Garrity. I'm not calling her name. Let's listening. Eat the message.
Dr. Gardner, I wanna stop you right there now. You know that is not that bad though.
No, it worked out good for me because I got married to somebody else, and this person I got married to.
No. Why I'm telling you that, my wife is downstairs listening. So if I get a little beating later, you guys gotta come in on this one. But I'm gonna talk my story. As you mentioned that he ate the message. But I remember back in high school, I had a girlfriend from all age. So very early, just early thing. And I remember when I went off the States, we kind of lose connection. But, there was this guy that was from the district, so we think we could transfer some message. Man, the guy was getting peanuts and, all those things to carry for me at States. And the man eat everything, so not even just the message. The man eat me peanut. and obviously he liked the girl too. So for years, I'm at States and I wasn't getting message. I wasn't seeing the girl. So, back then we don't have the cell phone access and that for her.
Cell
And she was
phone.
living deep and I used to stay over in Santa Cruz. So on the weekend, I'm still at States because I play cricket and I was doing athletics. So the man been eating the message and eating the snacks and the peanut. That was sad. Later on, I learned everything because I talked to the girl after what happened. And she said, man, I used to send all that to you. I said, boy, I don't get it. And yet still, him tell the girl that him give me everything. But
And
it's
you,
not
and
until
you just don't care. You don't care to send no message
no,
to her.
no, man. One day, me and my friend go down there now, come up and me decide to go look at my auntie. So I went back to the same area and I saw the girl. I said, man, you turn bad, son, whatever. And then my friend, his friend, boy and boy, I say, yeah, man, him get everything, man. Him get you and eat it. I mean, him eat it, man. Just a joke him around still. He don't even know the seriousness of this thing. So she thought this was serious that I was getting it. But then it was new to me when she told me, no, I used to give this guy yeah, I would know that guy too, but I can't call no name either. But you just when you're young, some things happen, you just have to laugh at it.
Bad
So
mind character, man. Yeah,
so
man.
so
So,
so that's about it.
and so I see one of your viewers, Marco, I
Yeah,
just shared that he went to school, or the school that he went to was the same school that Franklin Jacobs attended.
yeah,
So, there's another connection right there.
yeah,
So yeah, big up for that. Big up for that.
yeah. He's actually a chiropractor also.
You see? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
there you have it.
yeah, 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 yeah. He, originally from Panama, and from being an Olympic athlete to Olympian. So we're going to talk about that because you being an Olympian, Neil, and everything that you have accomplished, I know that has to be making you a better chiropractor.
Well, you know. Um, it is one thing when you see people who study anatomy or study physiology or how the body works, and it's another thing. Um, oh, he said he was in Atlanta with me. That's good. And it's another thing when you've lived it, because any Olympic athlete would tell you that you have to become a master of your body. You have to understand the workings of your body to get the most out of it. And, over the years, I was a student of my body. It just so happens that I didn't learn certain lessons until it was probably too late. So, my passion with track and field has led me to go down a particular path with my chiropractic training. Um, I've studied I studied neurology. I had the option of studying either sports chiropractic or neurology as a subspecialty. I decided to study neurology because if you understand the neurology to a higher degree, then you can help sports. But if you only understand sports, you won't be able to necessarily help the neurological issues. So I figured if I did neurology, I'd still be able to do what I love, which is sports. And so that's kind of why I went into the neurology area. And being a part of it was really a blessing. I don't know if you're aware, Ian, you were speaking to Vilma Charlton just before we came on air. Vilma Charlton is the person that is responsible for me getting the scholarship to study chiropractic.
Awesome,
I,
awesome. Well,
so
we're gonna
I
have
don't
to
know if you
dig
knew
into
that.
that. Yeah. Well, I know that. Obviously, I was going to ask you about because you probably could have done anything you want, but we actually wanted to know while you was in college, what were your ambition? What did you want to, what was your career path? What were you were looking to go? What was your early, what was, look, I wanted to be a soldier man when I was little. I used to play with a cartoon thing, and I said, man, I want to be a soldier. That was some early thing. But for you, we want to know what was in your
Well,
head.
well, I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. That's what.
Okay.
Well, so when I went to Michigan, I enrolled as a pre-med student, and it was interesting because I'm more so there are two areas of academics that I'm strongest in. One is um, biology, chemistry, physics. Well, biology, chemistry, which would lead to like the medicine side. But then I was also very strong in physics. That would lead to engineering. And so I had the option of doing engineering or medicine, and the engineering school was already maximally enrolled by the time I was able to register for University of Michigan. Um, and so I decided to do, pre-med, and biology was my initial area or major. I changed my majors from biology to biochemistry um, in my junior year. This would have been what would have going into my Olympic year. And I changed that, and I also changed from pre-med wanting to go into teaching. And so I wanted to switch to become a teacher and do pre-med and do biochemistry. And I actually was the first black graduate from my university with a biochemistry degree. Not just because anything special about me. I think biochemistry as a major was not offered until I think 1991, somewhere around there. Not 1993, I think. And then I graduated 97. So it's not like it was a very long, you know, period of time that was there why I was happy to be the first person that was of this skin type, right? But it turned out to be the case. Um, so I got into biochemistry thinking that I'd go into teaching. When I got back to Jamaica, I actually taught for 7 years while I was still running. And for anybody, let me tell you, having a full time job and training to be an athlete is not a good combination. It's hard to be on top of the game when you're done with training. You can't go home and rest. You have to go to a classroom and stand up all day on your legs. Um, and that too was another contributing factor. But I could not steal away from the classroom for long enough. In fact, Ian, in 2001 when we both went to the World Championships, and you were the national champion that year. That was the first year that I actually quit teaching. So I quit teaching from the September the year before, from 2000, and trained exclusively. And that was when I was able to get back onto things. You know what I mean? And things started to come around again. Um, but then after that, I couldn't stay away from the classroom anymore. A lot of my kids were very upset that I had left them, and some of them didn't do as well in their examinations as they should have. So I decided to go back to the classroom and made sure that I prepare my students for their external exams. I was teaching mathematics at the time for A levels and CXC. Um, so yeah, that was what I was about. And I mean, I my students did very very well. I had several distinctions, um, at A level, and I felt like if I hadn't stayed and made that sacrifice, they wouldn't have had that opportunity. So I am not sorry for the sacrifices that I made for the benefit of my students. It might have meant that I wouldn't have been a national champion, or I wouldn't have been a world champion or an Olympic champion. But it helps some of my students achieve their potential. And one of my kids, who he had a condition called muscular dystrophy, and muscular dystrophy is a condition where your muscles start to get weaker and weaker as you're getting older. And by the time he was 13 years old, he was confined to a wheelchair. Um, and he was extremely weak. Sometimes when he's in class, we'd have to hold up his head for him so he could see the chalkboard. Um, but Jamie was his name. Um, Brilliant young man, but demotivated because he was not doing great in mathematics, and so his mother asked me to try to assist in teaching him, doing extras with him and working with him. I worked very closely with him for the year. Not only was he able to pass A level math, he went on to university and was majoring in mathematics. And he said that I am the reason he decided to major in mathematics. What you don't know also about kids with this condition is that they don't have normal life expectancy. They usually die between 18 and 20. He lived to be 20 and then he passed away. So, you know, that stuck with me. And so you realize it puts things into perspective because you realize that life is not just about your own achievements. And people who look at life as what they can get out of life, they will never be as satisfied in their lives as they ought to be. I know many people who have won gold medals and they don't have the kind of life satisfaction that I have, you know. Um, so I'm very grateful for these opportunities that I've had to pour into the lives of other people because when I am dead and gone, if they live on, their successes is partly my success. And so, yeah, I'm grateful for that.
All right, man. We're so excited. I hope you don't have to leave anytime soon because
No, I'm good.
all right. So Neil, tell us, this is a personal question from me. I know it's from me. Everything
Why am I nervous?
so this is realistically how fast you think you could have run the 400-meter hurdles if all was well.
um, I felt like I think I would have run 47.9 in 97. Um, had I not gotten sick at NC's. A lot of people don't know that. I got sick at NC's outdoors. I just remembered waking up one morning with severe back pain while I was at the national championships. And later on that day, I could not smell, I could not taste, I had complete loss of appetite. And NC's is a time when my coach would take us to one of those steak restaurants and just have us order anything you want to eat, and boy, I had no appetite. I had a severe headache, but when I ran the heats, I still was able to run 49.1 in the heats, and I felt pretty easy doing it. Um, but by the time the finals came around, I I only could manage I think 49.9. So I finished sixth or seventh or something like that in the finals of NC's that year, and yeah, it was kind of devastating because right after NC's was the national trials 2 weeks later, and I still hadn't recovered enough to run well at the national championships. So I missed out on the world champs for 97 and the NCAAs, which was won by Joey Woody, and second place was Angelo Taylor. And I think I would have either been, I mean, I was really going after Joey that year. And Joey had run 48.4 the year before. I ran 48.3. I competed against him once earlier that season and he beat me, but I was nowhere near trying to peak at that time. So, it wasn't a big surprise that he beat me, but I was gunning for him for NCs, and I think I just pushed a little bit too hard and got sick.
All right.
So I think I would have run about 47.9 thereabouts that season.
All right, let me get one more question in before let me bring Ian in. Let's tell us your first 2 year at Michigan. We know that you're starting to excel towards your junior and senior year. Let's talk about your freshman year. How was the transition from Jamaica, from Wolmer's all the way up there in Michigan? How was your? I know you wanted to be isolated, you wanted to be in the cold, but how was things going for you?
All right, so the good thing about it, I was doing fairly well, I thought. I had jumped, I think 7.60 meters in my freshman year, indoors, and finished. I think I finished fourth or third in the conference in the long jump as a freshman. Um, I finished second in the 55-meter hurdles. Reggie Torian is the person that beat me. And it's unfortunate when you're in a conference with Reggie Torian. Um, I have one gold medal in the 110 hurdles, and I think 8 silver medals because of Reggie Torian in all the sprint hurdles. And the reason I was able to win that gold is because he was injured that year and didn't compete. Um, when I won NC's um, indoors in the 55 hurdles, Reggie had actually fallen in the semifinals. Um, and it was devastating for me as well because, as I tell you, I mean, I become good friends with all the people that I compete with, and I became a very good friend of his. Um, and whenever we had conference, I mean, it would always be me and him. So we got to know each other fairly well. And I know what it's like having a devastating event happen to you at a major championship. And something that I did, which I'm very happy that I did it, then was that after he had that fall in the semifinals and I went on to win, I invited him out to hang out with me and some Jamaican friends of ours. We usually have a big Jamaican cookout in Indianapolis with some Jamaican friends of mine, and I invited him to dinner with us, and so we were all able to just hang out. And I think spending the rest of that day with me and with other Jamaicans and just hearing them acknowledge how, boy, they're sorry to see that he fell, but that his fell led to my victory, so they're not so vexed over it. And he was able to laugh over things like that. I think was good for him too. But I don't know many people who would have done something like that. And it's just kind of how I view people. What we do as far as our competition has nothing to do with each other. What we do when we compete has to do with ourselves. I can do the best I can do, and that's all I can try to do. If I do the best I can do, and I finished, like when I went to the Olympics, I did the best I could. I finished um, fifth in my semifinals. I was the fastest ever person never to make the finals in an Olympic Games up to that time. So I was in the Guinness Book of World Record as the fastest person ever to not make the finals. In any other year, the time that I ran would have made the final. And you know who beat that record? Who got me out of the record books? Ian?
No, the guys are running fast now. So,
Kemel. Kemel now has the record.
wow.
Because in 2004, Kemel ran, I think he ran 48:26, I think, and didn't make the final.
Mm.
It was so. I mean, I'm happy that he did well, but I mean, Kemel was an awesome. If you want to talk about an inspirational story, Kemel is as inspirational as they get, because I remember Kemel when Kemel just started college, or when he was young in college. Kemel was not good. Kemel was not someone that you would say was a talented athlete,
Yeah,
but Kemel was a hard worker, and Kemel had short little legs.
yeah.
So I mean, he was about my height, but he had short little legs. So it was just I was just so impressed to see how well Kemel did over the years. And Ian, I mean, when Ian went to where did he go first? Was it Sydney or was it Did you go
Sydney.
to Sydney?
Yeah, Sydney.
When you went to Sydney and then you won the national championships in '01, and did you go to Athens as well?
Yes. Yes.
I remembered when you started to really, really run fast. I mean, I remember you were stuck at like 48.9 and 48.8 and 48.9, you know? Um,
Yeah, it's always. I mean, I ran my first year out of high school going to junior college. I ran 49.7. That,
yeah,
that's 20 years old.
yeah,
I mean, you and at the time, you just think that there's some things that you got to do to improve, and there's so much you could improve
right.
after you maxed out. And when you get older, you realize it. It's very difficult to run 15 steps. It's so fast you could run.
Exactly. Exactly. I
you
mean,
know,
and this is the thing that gave me an advantage over you. Um, and then Danny caught on it is my stride length because I was running 13 to 6 from my first season doing four hurdles, and that's what made me able to run so much faster. And then Danny started doing that.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of my way thing for not improving is just not proper coaching. Just
Yeah,
nobody actually, because I just keep getting stronger and stronger, but the results are not paying off over the hurdles.
I think I think personally, if I had somebody like you training with, we both would have run a lot faster
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
have very different strengths. We have very different strengths. You're like an 800, 400 meter runner, and I'm more of a 200 meter, 400 meter runner. And and then I was very technical over the hurdles. And so I know everybody who works with me hurdling, we always end up spending a lot of time working on technique together, and they always improve their technique considerably. And I know that if your technique were improved, you would have run. I mean, you were when it comes to four hurdles, the talent is considerable. You would have been able to. You could have had the national record, which is 47, what 61, our national record. If you had a better coaching to achieve a more efficient running pattern than you end up using.
I mean, not to take anything away. Stephen Francis is one of the greatest coach. I mean, when I see, I know Bridget Foster a long time, and we
You
pretty
know
much
her longer than almost everybody else.
right. So we're always talented in running, but the difference was when she started to get the
Coaching.
coaching. I mean, she pretty much could run over a mountain. I mean, she started to excel so much that I mean, it was unbelievable, man.
Bridget believed something in Frano that I don't think I bought into enough, and partly because he was my high school coach, and I didn't recognize how great he was until later on. But she believed that if she listened to everything he said, that she'd be a world champion. She believed it.
Yeah.
And she was, I mean, we trained together. We were part of the same training camp. Um, we were part of the same management team. So, and I lived with Bridget several seasons in Europe. And so we know each other very, very well. I don't know how she's still my friend because the more you know me, the more frustrated you can become of me. But she trained so hard that I remembered when she was not the greatest of. I mean, Bridget couldn't even bench press the bar, just the 45-pound bar. Bridget could not bench press just the bar, And she went from doing that to being able to bench press, I think, 160, wait, yeah, 160 something pounds, which is the bar plus two plates plus a couple other little things on it. I mean, at the time when I was there, I'm sure she went even more by the time, I hope she's listening. I mean, she's a mommy now, so she's busy.
Yeah.
Um, oh, Coach Allison. I didn't realize that was Coach Allison. There. But um yeah, so she did great. So yeah, Stephen Francis is an excellent coach, and it was if I think if I bought into, there's so many factors that hold back, or when somebody's successful, you have to understand it is against all the odds. It's against all the odds when somebody's successful. Everything has to just kind of work out perfectly because there are too many ways that things can go wrong. So, and there are many ways that things did go wrong for me, many ways that things went right for her, but many things that went wrong as well. And she just worked hard and was able to achieve it. Um, yeah, Vaughn.
All right. Let's bring Ian in. He's the health and wellness specialist. So let, let- he might want to he might have some other question he want to talk about aside track and field. So let's bring him in.
You're unmuted,
Yes, yes, Dr. Gardner. I
my
just
brother.
want to take back a spin, back down memory lane, really bringing you back to your school days, 19-year-old, and because I've seen where your story is very inspiring. So we could even bring it back right to the high school stage. You mentioned you were a nerd, and that is something that means a lot. That means you're a scholar in yourself. Right now, you're a doctor, Dr. Gardner, that tells the story by itself. But you also mentioned that you are legally blind in one eye. So we want to know, you know, how did that affect you in terms of your studies or just school academics on a whole, and also how would that have affect you in your track and field career?
All right. The main way that it affects me is with reading. When you read from left to right, as we do in English, maybe if it were Hebrew or something else, it would be easier because they read from right to left. But in English, we read from left to right. So we start from the left hand margin, and we come across the page to the right hand side. The interesting thing about that, or what makes that difficult in my case, is that when you're reading, your eyes, you actually are using the periphery of your vision as well to pick up the next set of words. And that would be the periphery from your right eye mainly. And so, because of my right eye being the eye that I have my legal blindness, I had to be just reading and turning my head with the one eye to see across the page. And that takes a lot longer. And it made it more challenging to read. And so, it would take me a longer time to study than it would take somebody else. So I read extremely slowly, so much so that the first time I actually read off a book from cover to cover, and I mean, I say this not as anything that I'm gloating over, or proud of. I'm actually embarrassed by it. But I'm grateful for persons like Mr. David Noel, who was very instrumental in helping me to be comfortable with my academic abilities along with my athletic prowess, right? Um, because the world of sports is not a world that is fully immersed in academics, and so you find that most of the people, they're not going to be talking about the next physics formula or magnetism or electronics or those things. No, we're not talking. That's not the conversations that we have in sports. We're talking about the sports statistics. We talk about who running fast. We talk about things that relate to our event or sport. The first time I read a book from cover to cover, I was in sixth form at Woolman's. I hadn't even up to that point read a comic book from cover to cover. Not even a comic book. As a matter of fact, I don't even think I've read half of a comic book up to that point. Archie comic or anything. Too many words. I had a hard time reading. I had a hard time reading. The only thing that kind of made things, I guess, work out in my favor was that I suppose I had an incredible memory. Um, I could remember. I just could remember information. I don't know why, and I could calculate. So when people look at mathematics, right? I saw math very differently from most people that I was in school with. Most of the times you get a math equation. Um, your the equation is something that is separate from the person. But for me, the equation was a part of me. And so if there was an equation, whether it's Pythagoras' equation, the quadratic equation, the quadratic formula, whatever it is, um, it just made sense. It applied in a real way to me. It wasn't just something that was as an abstract thing. It made sense to me, and I could just do it. Um, and this was always the case. So this was just something that I was blessed with, and I'm grateful for that. When I went to chiropractic school, I was so absorbed with the idea of being able to help people without having to use medication or surgeries that I could potentially use my hands to help people to get better. That I was so absorbed by that possibility that I studied relentlessly. I would study, I would study, you know, literally during the days. I would not study less than 4 hours in any one day. Not less than 4 hours. On the weekend, I would study about 8 hours on a Saturday and another 6 or 8 hours on a Sunday. So I would study a lot. Um, when I did my neurology diplomate, I actually did my neurology postdoctorate studies at the same time I was doing my undergraduate study. Usually, you become a doctor first and then you start to study the neurology diplomate program. I started doing it when I was in my first year in chiropractic school, in my second trimester. So I started it the February. I started school in September, and I started that program the February after. And then I sat for the examination for my diplomate board certification the year after I graduated. So I graduated in 2009. September 2009 was my certification. Well, I graduated August 2009, but the certificate said September 2009. And then in April of 2010 is when I did my diplomate examination and I passed it. So I've been a diplomate of the American Chiropractic Neurology Board since 2010, and it is something that I say how hard it was for me to read because it points out how much effort I had to put out. And it's not just about having the ability to remember things. If you don't have the information inside, you won't have anything to remember. So I don't care how good your memory is, you have to put out the effort to get the information in there so that you can now give your memory a chance. And that's what most people don't do. They think that success is training 2 hours a day and then going home and lying down. Success is training. Success is when you're tired and you go and you lie down and they say, all right, I better here not lying down. And then you get up back and you go back to train some more. You know what I mean? You have to be willing to do more than everybody else is willing to do better than what anybody else is able to do. Everybody is talented when you want to be good. Everybody is talented. When you get to university, everybody bright. Dumb people don't make it to university. So if you want to do well, you have to put out the work. When you get to the Olympics, everybody is talented. Talented people don't go to the Olympics. So if you want to beat anybody in the Olympics, you better make sure you bring something more than just talent, because talent alone ain't gonna do it. And even the great Usain Bolt knew that. He found out just in time that talent alone is not gonna get you there. Look at Gregory Horton. Talent alone not going to do it. Davian Clark. These guys are hard workers. Look at Wignall, Maurice Wignall.
Talent.
Maurice not fast. Maurice not fast, you know. Maurice was never a fast runner. Maurice was just a super hard worker. And he brought his talent to a level that surpassed even me in my best events. Amazing, amazing guy. Yeah, you want to ask Dennis's question? Dennis is asking a question.
All right, if you're not ready for Dennis' question, you can let it sit.
No, man, I'll answer Dennis' question. You know, my wife is you know, God bless her. I would do anything to help her to achieve any goals that she has, because she sacrificed, you can call it, she sacrificed her entire life to ensure that I could be where I am. Um, there's a story that Michelle Obama, I know it's a joke, right? So nobody don't come call the fact checkers and say this is whatever, right? But I like it, so I'm gonna share it. That Michelle Obama drove up to one of the gas stations in you know in one of their cars with Barack sitting in the back next to her. She turned to Barack and says, "You see that guy out there? He used to be my boyfriend in high school." And Barack says, "Yeah? Aren't you happy that you married me instead? The leader of the free world, the president of the United States, instead of this gas attendant?" And she said, "My dear sir, if I married him, he would be in here and you would probably be out there."
That's a good one.
Yeah, so sometimes it's a woman that maketh the man. And
Yeah.
so in the case of my wife, I can say without fear of contradiction or contestation that I would not be where I am had it not been for the work that she put out to get me here. So yeah, good question, Dennis.
I really love the way you speak highly of your wife, man, and that is so good, you know. As I said, behind every strong man, you know, there's an amazing woman. You know, I won't
That's
even say
right.
just strong, but an amazing woman behind. You know, all right. So,
Yeah, so next week is gonna be our 21st anniversary.
wow, traveling, man.
Yeah, we're getting up there. We're getting up there.
Yeah, yeah.
We're getting up
When did
there.
you get married?
March 4th, 2000.
Well, you look like you beat. No, me beat you up, man. I come from 99.
Oh, you're married in 99?
Yeah, still there and traveling from college.
You got married in 99?
Yeah,
Well, proud of you, man.
yeah, man.
I,
Yeah,
I, I can't compete with that.
yeah, counting along, you know.
You're doing well, man. You're doing well. You're doing very well.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right.
and she was my girlfriend in 96, And in fact, she was my
High
high
school.
school sweetheart.
Yeah, man. Same thing. High school, you know. I said those are the best relationship when
So
you
you
grow
see,
together.
so why you vex over the peanut? Don't vex
Eh?
over the peanuts.
Me never tell us about Bex, you know. You don't go and tell me because you share your
But
story
proud
just
of God and thank him.
you know, because you share your story. I was just telling them, say them for you, them only eat the message, but them eat my message and the peanut.
Well, be thankful send me the message too. Because you probably wouldn't still be married.
That is so true, man. God have a plan and a journey as we travel along life,
Amen, my brother.
which is good. Dr. Gardner, as I listen to you as you speak here, man, somebody have mentioned that you're a mentor, and definitely we're getting mentorship this afternoon here, based on your, people would say disability, but that wasn't a disability for you. You did not make your eye problem an issue that affect you. As you say, you put in more work than anybody else now, because you know what you had to do. You know your limitation. You know what you had to do. And with that, I just want you to just speak into probably a youngster out there, and I want you to just like take it back to you also talking to like your 19-year-old self. Just speak to them. They may have a disability and feel that, guess what? Something is out of their reach or whatever. But here you are, sitting in a chair there with, I love to see that banner behind you, the chiropractor, Gardner right behind you. So just speak to them as you would have speak to your 19-year-old self. There you go.
All right. The thing that's most important for me in helping me to get where I am is being able to see the destination before you get there. If you can't see it, you can't get there. Or if you get there, it's by luck. I don't know if you've ever gone somewhere and you know where it is, but you don't necessarily know the path to get there, but you know where it is. Has that ever happened to you before?
I
You
guess all
don't know.
of
You
us.
don't know the path. You don't know the direction that you need to take. You don't know the direction, but you
Yeah,
know the
hold
destination.
it, hold it. Yeah, Dr. Gardner, I know you're a Christian man, and that is what we call faith. You know?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
So, well, the thing is that which is it? Which is easier to achieve? And I'll ask you this question before I go into it a little bit. Is it easier to know the direction you need to take, but you don't know the destination, or to know the destination, but you don't know the direction?
Right. It could that come like when you're playing cricket and you bowl a little googly, But
It's a tough question to answer,
yeah, it's a tricky one.
It's a
And
tricky question. But
'cause you could,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was gonna say you could argue from 2 points, but we wanna have you go ahead,
Yeah, man, you can argue from both because
yeah,
there's no right or wrong with that, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
there's value in either.
yep.
But in the world of life, knowing a destination is way more important than knowing the route.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the journey of life, there are many paths that can take you to the same destination. Sometimes, if you make a left first and then make a right, it will take you to the same place as if you make the right first and then make a left. You understand?
Yeah,
So
no,
the
I
path
just
that you take is not the most important aspect of your success. It is whether you get to your destination. And to get to your destination, you have to have an idea of what that destination even looks like.
mm-hmm.
If you don't have a clue that you're at the destination, you reach the destination and pass the destination and end up somewhere else that you don't expect to be at. You have to at least know what your destination is. When you look at any great artist, a sculpture, Michelangelo, when Michelangelo is chipping away at those marble slabs, those big old rocks that he's taking his hammer and chiseling away. And then when he's finished chiseling away, you see a beautiful image of David emerging. And then you ask yourself the question, did he chisel away at that rock, that granite slab, until it started to look like David and then he cleaned it up to be David? Or did he know that David was under there and just removed everything that wasn't David? And any great artist will tell you before they start, they know what their finished product is going to look like. They don't start without knowing the destination. They don't necessarily know what strokes they're going to take to get there, but they know what it's going to look like when they're finished. Otherwise, they'll never finish their piece, their masterpiece. And that's how it is with life. That's how it has been with my life. I might not know that I needed to go to Wolmer's first and then work with this particular coach and then study this particular thing in order to achieve this. I wouldn't have known what path would have led to success for me. But I can tell you that at no point in my life did I think I was not going to be successful. I had a fairly good idea of what my life was going to look like since I was probably 6 years old, and my life doesn't look much different from how I envisioned that it would look like. One thing I knew for a fact is that I wasn't going to be filthy rich. And I was right. I was right. I am not filthy rich. And the reason I'm not filthy rich is because riches is not my goal. If riches were my goal, I'd be rich. But my goal is something else. My goal is to enrich, not to be rich.
Amen.
And because
Amen.
that is my goal, that's where I focus my efforts. So the more I'm able to enrich others in their quality of life, their vocation, even their personal relationships with God, is the wealthier I become.
Amen.
Is the more satisfied I become. Is the more fulfilled I become. You know what fulfill is? Fulfill is a beautiful word, you know. Fulfill is made up of two words that both means full. So if you want to fulfill your life or be fulfilled in life, you want to think about it like a glass that you're pouring water into. You ever thirsty yet? And somebody offer you a glass of water, and then them
No,
stop.
to them up on the cricket field and we can't wait for break time.
And when you pour the water, if the glass short like this, if the water don't reach the top, he said, "No, man, full it up, man, full it up. I'm thirsty bad." When you're not so thirsty, you know, this is full. When you're very thirsty, this is not full. And when you full it up to the brim, where there's no more fulling that can full it up, this is what you now call fulfillment. And that's what
Teaching.
life is about. That is what you pursue in life. Otherwise, you will always feel like there's a little bit missing. I don't feel like I'm missing anything in life. I don't have any kids. I've always wanted kids. We've not been blessed to have kids. I would be happy with children. I would enjoy parenthood. I would enjoy being a father. And I know my kids would have enjoyed having me as a father. There are times that I wonder what if I were to have had a child and all of these things. But I don't feel like I'm lacking. My glass still full. My glass is still full. And I show you what's interesting. If you pour, you can never be satisfied with enough if you're not satisfied with enough. Because if your life is already fulfilled, don't try to pack more into it than needs to be in it. Because if you pour a glass of water full to the brim, and then you get some what drink am I gonna use? Let's use some Coca-Cola. and you get a bottle of Coca-Cola. You have a glass of water and you have a bottle of Coca-Cola. And you pour your Coca-Cola into your glass that is already full with water. You know, if you keep pouring Coca-Cola into your water bottle, into your glass of water, you know what will eventually happen? Your glass will be full of Coca-Cola. See, whatever you pour into your life fulfills your life.
Amen. Mm.
Teaching, brother.
So you have to be careful what you're pouring into or allowing other people to pour into your life. Because whatever you pour into your life or allow to be poured into your life will fulfill your life, will fill your life up and
Mm.
leave no space for things that would satisfy if you're not careful. And the reverse is true. If you had Coca-Cola in the glass and you pour water in it and keep pouring water in it, eventually it's just water you're gonna have in the glass. So you have to understand that what you do with your life, what you do with your quality of life, how you view people, how you treat people, how you do things, you have to be deliberate about it. Because if you're not deliberate about it, you're gonna end up being disappointed in it. You see, where you end up in life is where you allow life to take you. You don't just end up somewhere if you didn't allow yourself to go there. If a car is going to Montego Bay and I don't wish to go to Montego Bay, then I won't get into that car and I won't go to Montego Bay. You can only get to a place if you allow yourself to be taken there. Some people have a life that they're frustrated with. You can only have a frustrating life if you allow life to take you down a path of frustration.
Mm.
If you choose not to go down a path of frustration, then don't get into the frustration car. Don't do it. So the decisions that I made in life, I have zero regrets. In fact, I don't have place for regret in my life because you see the same I that caused me to lose my chance of being an Olympic finalist. Because I guarantee you, if I did not have this eye accident and I were not legally blind in my right eye, I would have probably been in the Olympic finals. And who knows, the quality of the trajectory of my athletic career would have probably been different. But guess what? If I didn't have this eye accident, I probably wouldn't have gone to Wolmer's. I would have probably gone to Campion, and almost certainly I would not have gone to the Olympics. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So the very thing that people are using as their biggest obstacle is also your biggest ladder to success.
Right. That that's some powerful word there, man. As they say to the side, it's powerful nugget, inspirational. As I say, we're very happy that we brought you on here, Dr. Gardner, because trust me, you're basically giving us a course for free this afternoon here.
I
Look,
don't
you,
know.
Uh,
I don't know who said free.
yeah.
You get my bill in the mail.
Don't worry about yourself, man. All our audience will help you this one, no matter how hefty it is.
No,
And
but really, it is important. It is
yeah,
important. And
and
that's how
thank
I
you.
feel like. So the last
Yeah.
thing I want to say is this, though, Ian, on the whole issue of life, and this is a very important lesson that I had to learn. Um, People say be satisfied with where you are in life and be satisfied with the mistakes, or accept the failures in your life. Acceptance is a lower level than what I'm going to suggest. I don't say accept your disappointments. I don't say accept your failures. I say be grateful for your disappointments. I will say be grateful for your failures because gratitude is a higher level morality than acceptance.
Mm.
Dr. Gardner, I want to share a story with you right here, and a real life story, and you basically mentioned earlier that you don't have any children. And I say as yet, I'm not giving up on nobody. All right. Because I tell you, a lot of people have given up on us. Because here we go back to 20 plus years of marriage, been like 25 years together from high school. And my story is that my wife and I, we would have been told by several people, doctors included, that she will never have a child, give birth, based on what was going on in her body from cysts, fibroids, PCOS, you name it. And then later on, I found out that they'll say I have low sperm count and everything. But I'm a believer, believe in God. Habakkuk 2, verse 2 and 3, the promise is yes for an appointed time. But, just wait upon it because it shall surely come to pass. So if you go to Habakkuk 2, verse 2 and 3, that's a very powerful scripture, that vision, write it down and make it plain.
Amen, my
And
brother.
we stood by that. And I tell you, it was not until I was 40 years old I get my first child. Remember, doctors say we will not have a child any at all. Back there, we have a second child. So now we got children. And that would have been certain limitation that people would have put on you, you know. And I say during those times, it's been tough times because not having kids, friends will see a lot of things. Sometimes then when them take the joke at the time, they don't realize it's serious because you're going through challenge, you wanted a kid all this time. But we just waited and waited upon God. And I tell you, when I look at it now, I'm like, God, you know what you're doing. Because back then, my wife and I, as much as we were together for so many years, I still think we weren't fully ready. There was so much lesson for us to learn along that journey that now we're having the best time of our life with these kids here. In that we have learned so much, we have so much to give to them. It is just amazing as I just get up in the day just to go out there. I just say, guess what? They're my little breath of air now. Now you see COVID, we're barely getting much. they give me a reason to live now, man, and just embrace it. So guess what? Just let life go, live life as you go along, and just believe in God. And I know you're a man who believes in God, and I can hear the deep inspiration, coming here today. So that was just a little story that I had to share.
Grateful for that story, Ian. Grateful for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it took us many years, man, but here we are celebrating. But
Amen,
with
my
that
brother.
now, Dr. Gardner, earlier in the conversation, you mentioned that I did high jump. I don't know if you had to put that into it, because I was prone with accidents and injuries, and I realized you had a few injury along your career path. So my high jump injury, I was jumping. And somehow I went over the bar. I was training with Garfield Baker back at States. Very good high jumper.
Yeah, I remember
I was
Baker.
like about 15 years old, just got into States. Very energetic, was running from 1, 2, and 4. And Coach Olivier on Ash Wednesday, he said, Ian, go hang out with the guys. Because by then we had some guys that was just a little bit faster than I was when I got into school. We had,
Remember Gary Samuels and
they-
Carlos
they-
Samuels?
I had a my, but so
Yeah, they're ahead of your time.
yeah, so coach sent me over there, and I was just doing it, but I did not have all the skill or the proper techniques at the time. And I went over the bar. I cleared the bar at 15 years old. That Baker was clearing at class 1. I don't remember the height, but when I went over and I landed on the sponge, my knee and my forehead made connection. And that was the end of my career in terms of athletics. My mother said, boy, you put back your foot on that field, and I went through serious surgery, so I have my shear injury that, that sidelined me on athletics, put it that way. But I just want to touch now. You're a chiropractor, you know. So I want to know if you had sustained any serious injuries during your time, and is it that probably these injury identity had led you in choosing this career path?
Yes, I've had numerous injuries, but at the time I didn't know chiropractic would have been a potential solution for me with my various um, injury issues. While I was professionally running in the twilight of my career, if you will, this would have been just before I retired. I retired in 2004 was my 2005 was my last season um, of running track. I remembered I switched back to the 110 hurdles because at the time I was working with I was training with Stephen Francis, who it was clear that he had more knowledge of the 110 hurdles than of the 400 hurdles at the time. It's clearly different now because he has knowledge of everything now. Um, but I decided to try back my hand at the sprint hurdles, and I think I was doing fairly well. I had a time trial in January, and I ran a 13:6 one early morning. With another athlete who was running over the class one or class two height hurdles, and it was I was doing very well. And then by the February, I started having a knee injury. I just started having intense knee pain and could not bring my trail leg around to go over the hurdle anymore. And from February to the end of April, I was not able to hurdle. And then it got better towards the end of April, and I started hurdling again in May. And unfortunately, trials came around in June, and I only was able to manage running 14 flat, which was considerably slower than what I was doing in training before. And it was so sad because, when I look back at that particular injury, and I've had a few issues with that particular knee throughout the years because in for Sydney Olympics, in the heats at Sydney, in the semifinals or the heats at Sydney trials, Olympic trials, when I ran to the finish line after I think winning my heat, I ran to the finish line or finished second in my heat. I think Ian might have won that heat too. My knee started hurting, and it was hurting like very, very intensely, and I couldn't walk. When I went around back to the warm up track to jog down after the race, I couldn't walk. I forced myself to run the finals the next day, and I had to be taken off the field for the entire summer. I wasn't able to even drive my car, let alone walk. And the specific injury that I had then is an injury that I help athletes with right now on a routine basis in one or two treatments. And I know for a fact that if I had somebody who knows what I currently know around by that warm up track after did that semifinals, I'm pretty sure that would have been able to correct the issue, and I would have been able to run the finals without much of a challenge, and I would have probably been on the Sydney team. And it's very sad because I was doing very well that season. I'd run 49.50 the week before, and I finished. It was a race in I think it was Barbados, with a guy by the name of James Carter, who ended up finishing fourth at that Olympics. From the United States. He ran 49.46 and I ran 49.50. And he went on to run 48.1, I think, in those Olympics. You might remember the Olympic Games where this American guy was running through the finish line and turned around and was calling. I don't remember which athlete he was calling. It was a very distasteful.
Yeah, I think Ian, you got to remember we brought on Llewellyn Herbert on here, and
Was
we
it
have
Llewellyn that he had done that too?
no, I think he have done it to Al Somali or one of those other guys in the semifinal. Yeah, but the
It was.
commentators, everybody was giving it to
I
him.
was upset. But you know what's interesting? Karma is interesting, because even though he did very well by finishing fourth at the Olympic Games, I think he got fourth in those Olympics, and he got fourth again in Athens.
Athens. Yeah, yeah.
The worst place to finish at the Olympic Games. The only place that's worse than finishing fifth in the semifinals and not making it to the final is finishing fourth and not getting an Olympic medal. And he finished fourth 2 Olympics in a row. That's not easy.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, and I know James Carter. I mean, he's a great athlete. He have accomplished a lot in the sport. He have done a lot. He has
He's a good
really,
competitor. He's a real
yeah,
fierce
yeah,
competitor.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
He's one of the few guys that came through from a historically black college and came from one of those school, Hampton, and work his way up. And he probably could achieve more. I mean, I don't know. I personally don't know if he would have finished any faster in the final, regardless of what happened the day before. I mean, Angelo and
Somali.
Al Somali and Llewellyn Herbert, all those guys went
They were in
47.
shape. They were in shape.
You know, um,
They were in
so
shape.
it would be happy to know what James think about it. I never really,
It'd be good to have him on. I'd
yeah,
love to hear his mindset. And I mean, we do things in the heat of the moment, and sometimes it's not even our personality. You know what I mean?
yeah,
and
yeah.
and then we get labeled a particular way. But I just remember that because I was just recalling that he did very well in those Olympics, and I was just a couple hundredths of a second behind him in the last race I ran before the trials when I didn't make the team. So just to kind of point
Well,
that
I
out.
remember that race. I think that race was in the Bahamas.
Hmm.
No, yeah. It was a meet leading up to the Olympic trials. I think I was there, and I actually either fell down or something happened. I didn't have a good race leading up to the Olympic trials for that. But yeah, I mean,
You
you
had a good
know,
race in the trials. For that matter. I think you finished third too, didn't you?
yep, yep, yep. It was a close race. We all went down right about low 49s. It wasn't a blowout or
Yeah,
anything,
it was you,
you know.
Dinsdale, and Kemel, I think.
Yeah, yeah, so yep, it's really interested to sometime I just said we don't really know how the destination is going to turn out. That's why you got to humble yourself, and I
Yeah.
think for James, I think that was what a lot of the feedback that I get from people that was watching it. It was like, you better come into a game the next day. I mean, because it's really, um, you know, yeah, really not what you want.
No, it wasn't.
Hey,
It was.
hey, Dr. Gardner,
Mhm.
I see Leroy Allison here. He
Yes.
spent a lot of time typing in a whole question. I'm gonna block you out, right? So, he spent a lot of time. Our audience, we love to bring them in, on the conversation. But, as you read through, um, you could answer this and then back over to Ian, in your words quickly.
All right. Yeah, I think I've gotten it.
Okay.
And just to mention, Leroy Allison. was a coach at Monroe. I think it was Monroe that he was coaching at the time. Not 100%. It might have been there. But he was a coach that ended up coaching the the CARIFTA team when I went to the CARIFTA Games, and he helped to coach the jumps, and helped me to improve my PR at CARIFTA. I think it was 1991. Might have been CARIFTA 91. But Coach Addison was a wonderful, wonderful lover of the sport, and somebody who I just felt was just always interested in the development of our sport and the development of our athletes. And he gave back. He didn't care about which school he went to. He if he could help, he would help. Um, and so when he asked a question as to what can be done to help our youngsters um, achieve re-achieve the glory of the 2000s, when you're an underdog, when nobody knows to look out for you, and they see you kick in a race, they assume that you're not going to be able to hold it, and so they don't bother going with you. And then by the time you go to the finish line, they're like, "Oh crap, I should have gone earlier." But when once that has happened, now you're no longer the underdog. They now are watching you. So the next time you kick, you best believe you're gonna have 3 or 4 people kicking with you. So, sometimes it's good for people to not know much about us. And that's how Jamaica was for several years. You were the underdogs, right? And I think with what was happening with the Eastern European countries, especially with female athletics, and what was happening with the dominance of the United States on this side, most people, especially with the sprints, did not even think of Jamaica much. We had wonderful talent, but we were only best able to get to finals or maybe a podium finish. We're not usually on the top. So when we had, persons like Raymond Stewart, who, eh, there you go, he was at both Monroe and Veer. That was right. When you have persons like, you know, um, what's his name, Stewart, and not Dinsdale. What's Winthrop Graham? I mean, those guys, they laid the foundation for us. I mean, when Raymond was running 9.9 in 1991, that was no slow running. You understand? But back then he had Carl Lewis to contend with, Ben Johnson to contend with. I know cleanliness is questionable for a lot of these guys. So to see where we were able to get to back then, I think we did a great job back then. I think we're gonna be doing great jobs now. But in the same way that our biggest obstacle can become our biggest ladder for success, the sometimes our greatest asset in sports can be our greatest impediment. Because when you look at something like champs, champs is the starting ground for many an athlete. I mean, that's how Ian and I started in our sport. But because of the way that the athletes are training or trained currently, there's not much left for them after high school. And so most of the athletes that you would have seen, if they were great athletes as class 2 athletes or class 3 athletes, you can almost certainly be assured that they're not going to be great athletes as seniors. When you look at Greg Horton, Greg Greg used to play cricket. Greg started track and field, must have been like his second to last year in high school. And Greg really did great just his last year in high school when he was one of few people to beat Daniel England. And that's kind of what kind of started the whole thing for him. Um, but people like Ian, who was running fast from class 2 days, Ian, the difference between us then and these kids now is that we would probably run. How many meets would we run, Ian, before champs? Like four,
Uh,
5 meets?
yeah, probably start out February, the month of February. Like say, man,
End of
January.
January, February,
Yeah,
and we do like 4, 5 trap meets, and then we have champs. Then after
yeah,
champs, we might have one or two, and then we have the national championships, or we'll have mutual life. You remember mutual life
yeah,
relays
yeah,
and those
yeah,
things.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, we didn't have a lot of races. Now these kids are running every weekend, and if you run every weekend and you're training hard throughout, what longevity do you expect from these kids? So, Coach Allison, what I think we need to do is to get away from working our athletes the way we are working them. Champs is way too high a profile now. It's probably a blessing in disguise that Champs was shut down last year and that is postponed this year. Um, because at least some of the kids would have had a chance to recover. I mean, gosh, you have some of these kids that are running 45 seconds, you know, in high school from class 2 days. I mean, when Michael McDonald was in high school, he was like Michael. Michael is people don't understand now. When you talk about homegrown talent, Usain Bolt is not the person that you think about when you say homegrown talent. Michael McDonald is the person you think about when you say homegrown talent. Michael McDonald from Jamaica as a junior ran 45 seconds as a junior, and he won the World Junior Games as a junior from Jamaica and went to the Olympics, ran 44 seconds in the Olympics as a Jamaican fully trained athlete. He was a part of our golden, well, bronze 4x4 team. Because back then the US team had Michael Johnson and some of those people who Butch Reynolds and those people who you're not gonna beat them guys. You're not gonna beat them guys. But we came very close, and with Gregory Horton falling and getting up and still winning a bronze medal in an Olympic finals is no joke. So we just need to make sure that we lay off the kids a little bit, give them a chance to recover. I think that's the most important thing. The coaching standards have improved, but the desire for success has gotten so great that it is limiting the forward mobility of our athletes, and we need to watch out for that.
All right, awesome. And on that same line, I want to ask a question in regarding to you know athletes that are staying back in Jamaica and athletes that are taking up scholarship. Neil, how, in your opinion, what would you, what recommendation would you give to athletes when they have finished high school and making some decision about if they should stay back and train in Jamaica or take up a scholarship in the US? Ah,
Do see because you're the person who has to get up and look at yourself in the mirror in the mornings.
yeah,
Do what's in your heart to do because it's not even about going to where the opportunity is best to achieve your best outcomes. It has more to do with what you want out of life and what you see for yourself. For me, I wanted to expand my worldview as much as possible. That's why I wanted to travel overseas. Not because I felt like that's the only place I could have had a chance to have an athletic career, which at the time probably that would have been the case, but because I wanted to live in a different country, experience a different culture, learn different people, learn different habits, learn new languages. Because, even while I was overseas studying, um, I studied foreign languages, and I actually lived in Mexico for a time. So I studied Spanish, and I became fairly fluent in Spanish. Haven't spoken it in a long time to a lot of people, so I have to think about it a little bit when you're talking. But you drop me back in Mexico for a month. I'm sure I'll be right back to where I was. The only downside about learning Spanish from native speakers is that they like to teach you bad words. hey,
Loco.
hey, Neil, go and say this to that person. I say, what does it mean? Just go and say it. So so if it is, I'm speaking to the athletes now, right? If for you've always looked forward to studying overseas, and you have an opportunity to study overseas, by all means, go overseas. If, however, you want to stay here, you don't want to live abroad, you want to live, eat your Jamaican food and whatever, have your mother round the corner, so if anything happens, then stay here. Do what in your own estimation is what is in your best interest to do. Do what you're passionate about doing. Follow your own passions and dreams. Don't let somebody else's passion and dreams define yours, because nobody has your experiences to tell you what your dreams ought to be.
But Neil, the question that I really want you to say at a young age, I mean, some of the athletes or some of they don't even know what they want, and they don't even know they don't even look at the situation as an open mind to really figure out um, what would be the best decision for them. They might be, as you said, they might be looking at somebody else, and we see athletes like yourself and Michael Frater, Melanie Walker, uh, you know, and the list goes on that actually, I went to college, went back home, trained, and vice versa. We know we have the greatest athletes in the world that, just went professional and did an excellent job with it. I know that he wouldn't have changed anything about that. I'm just saying from a standpoint of how to assess the situation, where the mentoring come from, how that part of it educate the kids some more, just for them to have a better view of the situation.
One of the things I will say, as I see David here chiming in, going to go to college, um, I am in favor of expanding your worldview. That's me personally, right? I think that if you are exposed, the more you're exposed to, is the greater your potential to grow. It's like taking a plant and taking it out of a flower pot and putting it into the ground. In the flower pot, it can grow so big only because the roots can go so deep. You take it out of the pot and put it into the earth, and you'll be surprised how much bigger and healthier that same plant will become. This is how I view going away to study. But apart from worldview, opportunities may vary depending on the individual. So somebody like Davian left Jamaica while he was still in high school. Then he went to the University of Miami. I think it's University of Miami with the
Yeah,
orange and green.
yeah, hurricane. Yep.
Um, he did extremely well there. He's now a coach in the US and doing very well there. Had he not left and gone overseas, he would have probably been successful in another area here in Jamaica, or maybe still would have been overseas. Who knows? So success is not about how well you do on the track, and success is not how well you do off the track. Success is about living a fulfilled life, and that can happen wherever you go. So I will always encourage young people. I always ask them, what do you want to do? Do you want to travel? Do you want to go overseas? Do you want to experience a foreign culture? Because if you want to experience a foreign culture, then you can't do that while you're here in Jamaica. And if you experience a foreign culture and you don't do very well in track and field, as well as you think you ought to have done, then you've already achieved something that you probably wouldn't have. Look at Richard Butner. Richard Butner is an Olympian. He went to the 1992 Olympics in Spain. I remembered when I met Richard, and he was a Calabar student. He was coached by Fitz Coleman, and I remember training with Richard Butner when he came back from college preparing for the Olympic Games. And at the time, I don't remember which school he attended, but he went to the Olympics. He did fairly well in his track and field career. He wasn't an Olympic gold medalist or finalist, but he established himself creditably as a Jamaican. But what was even more important was his professional career thereafter. I mean, I remember going to the airport in Dallas and seeing the entire international wing. Yes, Richard, you are an awesome man. And seeing the entire international wing at the DFW airport, and then learning that my brethren Richard was responsible for outfitting the entire, I think it was a D terminal with all their monitors and all the things there. And I was like, my God, this is just a little Jamaican man from a little small place in the Caribbean being responsible for all of this greatness that I'm seeing. People like Errol Biles, who another great big brother of mine, brethren of mine, they didn't do awesome in the track and field. I mean, they did fairly well, but then they were supremely successful men. You see, when you look at life, there are people who say, boy, Neil shouldn't have come back home, Neil should have stayed in America, and Neil should have done this, and boy, Neil would have probably been an Olympic gold medalist by now or whatever. Yeah, but probably I wouldn't have been still. I would have been frustrated with being over there. Maybe I would have been married to an American woman and divorced already. 'Cause you know how it is. So if there are any American women that are listening, I apologize for that comment. And if there are any men who are listening that know of what I'm talking about, I don't have to say nothing else. Right? Right? So, who knows? These things are important.
All right, let's see. Yeah. All right, Neil. You're
I'm
you're
frozen.
frozen, but we're gonna keep going. So before we get back over to Ian, I just want to touch base. We got to talk a little bit more about the Olympic experience off the track. Well, not necessarily off the track, but from your perspective of just being in the Olympics, what did the Olympics mean to you, and what were your best experience? I know the Olympics was in Atlanta, in the U.S. I mean, it was basically a second home for you. I mean, at the time, it could have been any other place. I mean, just for you competing in the U.S., you familiar with the whole collegiate system and stuff. What were your best moment that you could remember in Atlanta? Just being at the Olympics, just watching the track, and just meeting people in the village. How was your experience like?
Well, one of the things that I was grateful for in the Olympics was to be able to spend time with the Jamaican team. Um, the Jamaican team. Hold on a second. I'm trying to bring up back my camera. The Jamaican team had some wonderful people in it. We had Davian Clark, Greg Houghton, and it's interesting because 1996 Olympics was probably the least successful Olympics for for Gregory. I don't know if you remember, he didn't make the
team.
team for the out and out. What do you call it?
Yeah, he didn't make the team in the individual event.
Individual event.
Yeah.
And so that was a challenge for him going there, and it was just good being able to kind of spending time talking with him, finding out what made him tick. How could we move beyond that? Because I just felt like he was just one of those great people that just needed to be encouraged. You know, I'm gonna try to turn off my camera here just a second because I'm gonna try to bring it back up, and I don't want it to have me come up in any weird looking way. So bear with me. I'm a little bit distracted because I want to make sure that I
Actually gonna show video.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna share a small video since we actually.
His initials are NAG, and impishly, with broad grin and cracking laughter thereafter, noted athlete Dr. Neil Anthony Gardner will tell you that in his school years he was indeed the nag, listless and hyperactive, until he was told by Coach Stephen Francis one evening, while going for detention at Woolmer's, that he should try track and field instead.
Well, I was what you called a hyperactive child. If we had the diagnoses back then, I would have been diagnosed with ADHD. I guarantee it. But back then, nobody was diagnosing anybody. So I was spared the medications, and I was allowed to give trouble and get myself into all kinds of mix-ups.
He took Francis's word, and as a natural jumper, fences and all in Almond Town, though a child of good family stock, he was to start with the high jump, followed by the hurdles, remarkably after just studying a photo of distinguished hurdler Roger Kingdom. Gardner shone at the High School Boys Athletic Championship, the Victor Ladorum champion athlete 3 years in a row, 1991 to 1993, being adjudged the event's 1990s Athlete of the Decade. Gardner also excelled at the CARIFTA Games at the high jump, triple jump, and 110 meters hurdles, winning some 5 bronze, 3 silver, and 1 gold from 1989 to 1993. Obtaining a scholarship to the University of Michigan with the help of past J3A's president Teddy McCook, there's a record shining and still standing. Chiropractic neurologist Dr. Neil Gardner is the 1996 NCAA 400 meters hurdles champion and 1997 NCAA 55 meters hurdles indoor champion, the only athlete to date to have both titles.
In the finals, it was business. I ran down there, tunnel vision, set my blocks, stood up, ready to take the gun, almost before anybody else was down and set. I knew what I wanted to do and I was ready.
And the sprint hurdles.
My reaction was so fast, I was so focused. By the time anybody else reacted, I was already almost over the first hurdle.
It is of note that he was the youngest semi-finalist in the 1996 Atlanta Summer Olympic Games and also a semi-finalist at the 2001 IAAF World Championships in Edmonton, Canada.
Talented. He was gifted, and he didn't waste or abuse his talents. Secondly, he had something to build on. he was coming from a family background. And very importantly, he had a competitive instinct, a desire to succeed.
You're muted, Ian.
Yeah, yeah, I was saying that was very much inspiring,
Yep.
Great Dr. Gardner.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't see me in that race, finishing second.
Uh,
Yeah,
it's a little distant for me here, but I
yeah.
gotta go back and look at it uh, outside of the view of Ian and Ian Real Talk and see what you're doing in that one.
Yep, yep,
That must
yep,
have been fun. You guys both in the same race.
yep. It was good too for us as Jamaican to finish first and second.
All right, Ian, could you walk us through the race while we wait on on Gardner, Dr. Gardner?
Well, my opinion of the race is, was I was in lane 2. Neil was up in lane 5. So actually, I didn't see him at all until the last 50 meters. And he executed a way better race. For me, the curves was tight. And I just basically was running as fast as I can, but I didn't know where I was until I came on the home stretch. So I finished the race with a lot of energy, too much energy that I wasn't able to distribute during the race. But I still was able to, finish second. My school won the first NCAA championship overall. Well, no, we finished second. That was indoor, but so I wish that I would have made my move a little faster at the time, or I wish I was a little bit closer. But Neil was just having a fantastic season. He actually surprised me, knowing that he was a 110 hurdler. I didn't think he would have been strong enough to run that fast. So that was my take. I actually have not seen the race until just now. I could not get a video of that race, but I think for me, I will look back on the race and kind of see where I was in terms of my position, who's going over the hurdles first. But I could think that Neil went out pretty fast because knowing that that was his strength, he was technically better than me, and I was stronger than him, but at the same time, that's where we're different. So yeah, but it's one of the greatest memory that I have running in college, even though I was not victorious, but I could say that was my first time competed at the NCAA championship. I was up in Eugene, Oregon. And I mean, and I was proud, set a school record for my school, George Mason. I think I ran a 49.6. Neil was a 49.2 during that race. So yeah, great memory.
Okay, I see Neil talk a lot about you guys' friendship. But what would you say stand out the most about Dr. Neil Gardner to you, as a friend on and off the field?
Well, what I admire about Neil Gardner is willpower. He has done so many different events in track and field. He has been an heptathlete that does many events. I respect anybody that run the 400 hurdles because I know it's a very challenging race, but the fact that Neil was able to do so much different event, I think that become an advantage for him running the 400 hurdle because in the 400 hurdle, you got to be thinking, you got to work on rhythm, speed, strength, and endurance. And when you look back at it now, you could say Neil, that was a perfect fit for him to run the 400-meter hurdles because he never get an opportunity to run in high school. He was so good at high jump. He was doing long jump and he was doing the 4x1. So he was running so much event. And I think that, but I could say what I admire about him is balance. How he was able to balance his school, work, and being able to be a good athlete.
He said let him in. He said let him in. Ian, I think he's there too.
Yeah, his camera is off. Yeah.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, we're hearing you, Neil, but we're still not seeing
You're
your
not seeing
camera.
me.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. My camera. I'm gonna shut off my system and bring it up back. But yeah, I saw everything that you guys are doing. It's just that I couldn't
Okay.
participate much. I'm gonna try to see if I can get my camera in again.
You're good, Neil. Ian is here giving
Okay,
an
there we
overview. Here
go.
you are.
Yeah. So we're good. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I heard you, boy. You know, Ian, I'm very happy. I'm very happy that I'm going to say something here, right? I'm
Real
going to
talk.
say
Real
real
talk.
talk, real talk. I'm going to say something that I think it will be a surprising thing to hear somebody else say. I would rather that I did not make the 2000 and 2004 Olympic Games to know that you made it than to have made it and know that you did not make it. I would rather it play out the way it did, that you made the team and got a chance to be an Olympian because of your greatness, than to know that there's any possibility that I could have robbed you of the opportunity to be an Olympian yourself. I'd rather lose any possibility of getting any greater acclaim just to know that you got to walk on that journey too.
And let me respond to that. The way that I assess it, I mean, those are very kind words from you. You know, I honestly believe that everyone I've enjoyed a piece of the pie. uh, I mean,
Even Danny, especially
yeah,
Danny. I'm
yeah,
Danny is so impressive. It's not even funny. Danny is such an impressive dude.
yeah. I mean, Danny McFarlane, his story is I don't know what word to use, but the fact that I was in Sydney, Australia, when Danny ran the 400 meter, Danny was looking towards his end of his career,
Mm-hmm.
and the we try to ask him what was the turning point for him to decide to do the 400 hurdles, and I think his answer was just watching. Um, he mentioned a few names of people that he
Calvin
watched.
Davis.
Yeah, Calvin Davis that have done it and stuff like that. So, but just Danny legacy to run at the World Championship from 1995 to run at 8th World Championship, right? Neil, that's a long time,
A
you know.
long career.
So he almost broke the record. He have tied the record to being the only person to run at 8th World Championship, right?
Really?
So that's from 95 to 2000.
He ran 2005, that's for sure.
Yeah,
He went up to 2008, didn't No, 2007. I don't think he went to
2007, 2007. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, the realistic of it, and many other people probably could have succeeded in other events. A lot of times we do the wrong event. I mean,
Yep.
do you ever think that, or do you wish you was doing the 400-meter hurdles earlier in your career? Or
No. I think the reason I was able to do as well as I did, I still don't think that I'm a strong enough runner to do anything really to the level that would have probably gotten me to a world record or being able to be a gold medalist in an event on the track because I was just not fast enough a runner. Um, the fastest, Ian, you don't know how slow I am, you know. The fastest 400 that I ever ran up to the time of my 4 hurdles PR, the fastest 400 time that I had ever run at a flat 400 was 48:50 something. And my 4 hurdles PR was 48:30.
I mean, you have what you have done in O'Neill. You have give the event a lot of hope. You have done something that many people wouldn't think that would be possible. I mean, to run the 400 hurdles the way you run it like you're a 45-second guy, right?
That was just a trick. I was pretending to go that fast.
Yeah, you probably get out faster over the hurdles
Yeah, I
that
do. I
that
do
that
run faster when I'm over the hurdles than when I'm running flat without the hurdles. I don't get it. I can't get it. I can't understand. My coaches couldn't understand it.
yeah,
It made no sense, but
you know.
it is what it
Yeah.
is.
But Neil, you have been a former decathlon athlete. You have so much talent. The realistic of it is just looking where you're coming from. You have what it takes to be a 400 hurdler. Anyone that has done, you have done the decathlon or the heptathlon back then.
Uh-huh.
I know the field event were your strongest ones. So you
Not
could
the
just,
throwing ones, that's for sure.
but you know, it just to show that limits. You can't put limits on what people could do.
I appreciate that. That's true. Because when I told persons of what I wanted to do in sports, and they knew how slow I was, it didn't. They would laugh at me oftentimes, and say, go find something else. But the one thing that I always had that was to a higher degree than most everybody else was the ability to jump. My
Yeah,
leg strength and explosiveness. I mean, I was jumping over cars when I was 13 years old, 14 years old. Um, so it's like, and when I say jumping over cars, I don't mean jumping over the hood of the car. I talk about jumping over the roof.
yeah,
You understand? These are things that I would do. I jump over fences. Somebody's gate is closed. I just jump over the fence without touching it. This is just what I would do. I jump from roof to roof, rooftop to rooftop, or jump off roofs when I was younger. And my friends couldn't understand how I could do that. And I was like, but what? Why can't you? So those are things that was my talent. That was almost like my little superpower. I didn't even know that there was a sport for it or an event for it. And later on, as I started to get involved with running and jumping more, I realized that there were fewer and fewer people that could do the kinds of things that I was able to do. But unfortunately, because of injuries, I couldn't continue doing those things, so I changed over to other things. So, well, go figure.
all right. Well, I got one another important question that I wanted to touch about. We haven't talked much about it, but at the time, just my young self, you know, and me and you talk about this, before. Do you think you're hyperactively, you have
I'm
known,
hyperactive, that's for sure.
right, right. Now we know that, did you think that helped your athletic performance or hurt you in any way? Because I mean, I've read stories and seen where, you know uh, different perspective of of people that diagnosed with being hyper, um that does not help the performance, so they will take medication. You
You see that? You see? Well, you know, it.
so I'm just trying to figure out.
I
We're
think,
from a third world country.
yeah, man.
I
I
mean,
think being hyperactive has definitely helped me to do the kinds of things that I was able to do. I don't think it was an impediment at all. I don't think it hurt me. I don't think
okay.
I needed to be on medication to so as to not let my hyperactivity limit my athletic performance. In fact, I thought my hyperactivity was an asset to my athletic performance. When everybody else run up and down 2 times and tired, I run up and down 2 times and I'm ready to run again. You understand? What I found happened though was that when I started running is when I actually was able to settle down in school a little bit better. And the good thing for me is that it started early because I started track and field at age 13 with a high jump. And back then, I mean, teachers would keep kicking me out of class because I kept talking. I mean, it never stopped me from talking, but at least I'd be a little bit more tired than to suddenly run up out of get out of my chair and run across the room, jump through a window, which are things that I did. And poor parents, the poor teachers, they wouldn't know what to do with me back then. So when I started running, it really helped to keep me, grounded, keep me anchored, and frankly speaking, just keep me tired enough so I'm not as hyperactive in classes as I would have otherwise been.
All right. Well said. And well said, well said. I'm not going to add any more to it. Um, just moving along. I know one of the viewers have talked about. Well, I believe it was Davian, um, in regarding to the opportunity that you receive to go to chiropractic school. We wanted
Right,
to shed some more light onto that in
right.
terms of how did this opportunity come along, and just give us a little history of how did you go to the Parker Chiropractic College in Dallas, Texas?
Okay, so in 2004, I remember distinctly one day I was, I was teaching at the time. I was teaching at Wilmer's, and at the time I was talking to Vilma Charlton about who is one of our, former Olympians, and kind of call her the mother hen of track and field, if you will, because she really looks out for all of the younger Olympians coming out. But she was at the time the president of the Jamaican Olympian Association, and the World Olympian Association had just started to kind of reformat themselves into um, a formalized body again, and they they wanted to increase the visibility of chiropractic um, in sports, and this was with the International Sports Chiropractic Association. So they started to offer scholarships to Olympians if they wanted to study chiropractic. But there are certain prerequisites that the persons would have had to have in order to study chiropractic. So you have to qualify, right? Um, most persons would not have been able to qualify by virtue of depending on what subjects they did in college or what courses they did in college. But as it turns out, I happen to have done all the prerequisite courses because I did biochemistry. So let me show you how life is interesting and how it works out when you're in the middle of God's will, how everything in life works out. Um, Remember, I was doing biology first as a pre-med student. In my third year, which was the Olympic year, I switched over to biochemistry. Because I switched over to biochemistry, I needed to do a couple more math courses, a couple more physics courses than I would have needed in biology. Those couple math and physics courses were the courses that I needed to take in order to qualify for chiropractic school, which would have come about 8 years later. You understand what I'm saying? In
Yeah.
other words, had I stayed in biology, and stayed pre-med, I would not have been able to go straight into chiropractic school. But the fact that I changed majors meant that I had to do different courses, and these new courses that I did qualified me to go into chiropractic school.
Amen.
So that was kind of the catalyst for that. Now it was Vilma Charlton that called me and asked if I were interested in studying because of that opportunity that was coming up. And so I submitted my transcript to Parker University, then Parker College of Chiropractic. And the president of the university was actually the one who contacted the World Olympian Association and asked if the first Olympian to get the scholarship could come to his school. And so I was the first Olympian to get the scholarship. And I went to that school, and I remembered meeting the president of the college. And he has just been instrumental in the furthering of my own career. Him along with other persons as well, but he was largely responsible. And a couple of years when I didn't have enough money to pay for accommodation and so on, he offered a presidential scholarship to me personally, in addition to the tuition scholarship that I got from the World Federation of Chiropractic and the International Sports Chiropractic Association, to be able to afford to be there. They even assisted in paying for my neurology diplomate training, which was done at a different learning institution. It wasn't even done at Parker. So when you're in the middle of God's will, doors open, opportunities just present themselves, and you have to be in a place of gratitude to make the most of it. The way I viewed my chiropractic education was the same way I viewed my Christianity, and I'll explain. There are persons who keep thinking that Christianity, you live a good Christian life, a life of virtue, a life of um, wholesome living, because you're afraid of going to hell. But the reality for me is that I live the way I live because I know I'm not going to hell anymore. I live the way I live because I have gratitude for the blessings that I got to be a Christian. And these blessings have given me the opportunity to know for sure that I am saved in Christ. And because I am saved, I don't worry about hell. And I live my life showing God how grateful I am for saving me. Not because I'm afraid of going to hell. I know I'm not going to hell. I live my life because I know I've been saved from hell. And so when I went to chiropractic school, I got this scholarship. And there are many people who get scholarships and they waste their time because it's not for them money I spend. They are not the ones spending the money, so the dime is not on them, so they don't put out the effort. But for me, it's precisely because it's not my money. It's precisely because somebody else has invested in me that made me work as hard as I did. Not only did I work super hard, I mean, I was actually the valedictorian of my class. My lowest cumulative grade at chiropractic school was, I think, a 90.6% was my lowest cumulative grade. But my average grade was like 95%. I would do, whenever I did an exam, I would do it 4 times. Almost every exam I did 4 times. And I'll explain what that means. When we do the exam 4 times. So usually the exam, if I have a 1 hour exam to do, the first 10 minutes, I'll sit down and answer every question on the paper in my head first. And then I will write down the answers on the exam sheet. And then I'll answer the questions on the bubbling. You have a little thing to bubble out to say, you know, if you answer A, if you answer B, if you answer A and C, whatever, you bubble in those answers. So the third time I did it was to actually use the same questions, not use my answers now, you know. I did my first set of answers in my head, did my second set of answers on the paper. My third answer was bubbling it in. And then the fourth time I did it was to go over what I did on the paper and what I bubbled in. I made sure that the answer that I get this last time was the same answer as I had on both the two times before. And by doing that, I don't make careless mistakes. And that's how I deal with life even now. That's how I do when I'm dealing with a patient. You know, it takes me about 20 minutes to a half an hour per case file when I'm reviewing what I need to put together as their treatment plan, which means I can't do their treatment plan when they come in at the same time. So when people come in to see me, they already know that they're not going to be treated on that first visit. They already know that we're going to examine them on the first visit, and then I'm going to take your information, sit down, cock up my foot, and plan what I'm going to do with you before I even touch you. And then I explain what that plan is, and then if you are done with it, then you know we proceed. And that's how I approach it. And by approaching things that way, it cuts down on errors, it cuts down on rushing, and it increases the possibility of you having a successful outcome with a person. So I think we kind of get different results from most chiropractors that I know. And the reason we get different results is because of the approach that I take. Right now, we have people who are waiting a very long time to see me. Even during the whole COVID time, we have a very long waiting list of people to see me. Um, I don't use it as a thing to say how great I am, but I think it has something to do with the approach that we take, and it resonates with people. The only thing that I have as a disappointment is that my own country in track and field, has sought the services of foreign chiropractors to treat their Olympians above me as a Jamaican. And the down thing that is about that, the thing that's disappointing to me is not because I think I'm losing income from it, because I don't lose income. In fact, the more athletes I treat, the less money I make. If I have to go to an Olympic Games, it costs us money because I have to shut down the office and all these things. But the disappointing thing to me is that I see athletes with injuries that I'm pretty confident that we can correct in one or two treatments, but they're not being treated by somebody that's as good as me, if you want to look at it that way. And so they don't do well. And the downside about it is that the people who make the decision, they don't even know enough to know that they don't know who the best assets are that they have. They don't even know enough to know who the best people are. There is the person who was the president of the International Sports Chiropractic Association told me personally. He says, "I know the chiropractor that you're taking to the Jamaicans are taking to the Olympics, and he cannot hold a candle to you. So you make sure when you go home, you tell them that they need to take you to the Olympics and not that person." You know how many Olympics I've been to as a chiropractor for Jamaica?
All of them.
Zero. You know how many world championships I've been to as a chiropractor for Jamaica? Zero. How is it that you have an Olympian who is a chiropractor? Not to say that they should take me because I'm an Olympian who's a chiropractor, but I'm probably the best. I'm probably the best chiropractor that they have access to.
Well, we're so happy for you to shed some light on this,
That is
this
my biggest sadness.
you know, We're not gonna ask you that question about any disappointment that you have faced during
That's
your.
my disappointment. That's my disappointment. I mean, and it's not for me, you know. The thing is that I'm so I'm so other centered that I feel like there's an athlete who has problems like I had that needs somebody like me to fix it, but won't have access to somebody like me to fix it. Because how many people can go to Germany to a specialized doctor? How many people have that money? You know what I mean?
Yep, that you would. I've heard the stories before that if you're back in Jamaica and you are there, you have access to be able to get first priority.
What? What's talking about? first, first priority as what?
In terms of since you're local and you're back, you're in Jamaica, and you are just as knowledgeable than somebody else, you would more than
I'm
likely get
not just
called.
as knowledgeable as most chiropractors.
You're more knowledgeable.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Any light you want to shed on this, Ian?
Well, first I just wanna say, just listening him as Dr. Gardner speak just a while ago, Dennis would say, I'm not surprised. And many of us on here would say, we're not surprised either. Because, and that is just something that we think personally is wrong right here in Jamaica. We have homegrown people who are able to manage, who are capable, more than capable, of taking care of our sports athletes, whether it be a cricket coach, track and field coach, a soccer coach, but we have the resource there in terms that we can put together an entire team. But we realize that they're not being used. We tend to find a way to go outside of our country to look for goal when goal is right there in Jamaica. It's like, and it costs us more money if you think about it. But yet still we have people who are very capable, knowing what they're doing, very knowledgeable, as Dr. Gardner would have said, what he's doing right now, personally, especially the neuro side of it, the brain, everybody know that, guess what? The brain is like the most important part of the body. Really, need to send some signal all over. And with him studying the brain and knowing how all these nerves and everything function, and as he had talked earlier regarding his injuries and what he realized after becoming a chiropractor, I think that would be valuable asset to give back to these athletes, and take apart the fact that he's a chiropractor, but he's also a former Olympian. Who else? So instead of you getting one, area being taken care of, you're getting a chiropractor, a coach, a mentor, because you can see it here. Dr. Gardner is a great mentor, would give great mentoring to these athletes. So he is a value pack, but sad to see they're not using him here. And that really hurts. It hurts deep to know that, you have basically have all the tools that is necessary. It's like, as a man that is working and he have, today I had a little situation with my car. I had a flat tire coming back from the cricket game. And we went to a tire shop. And I'm just telling you, I was just blown away the amount of vehicle that was there when we got there. But just to see the people when they have all the tools, man. One man, yeah, and it's like within 10 minutes, like 5 car out already. And like when we got there, we're like, man, this is gonna be a long wait. But you have all the tool, the necessary tool, you have the power tool. Right now I see Dr. Gardner as a power tool, that will be able, as he said, 2 treatment could fix some of these athletes. And it's not like he's guessing it, but he knows what he's doing. And the fact that he was there too as an athlete, and the man said I have to go back to this again in a Dr. Gardner. A nerd. That means him study, know what I do. You know, study, dig deep. So that is something that I really
It is
feel.
sad.
You know,
I mean, it is just
sad.
sad. It is just sad. It is sad to me. It is frustrating to me, and you know, it is crazy. I am disappointed in the way previous administrations have thought about things. And I mean, okay, if it turns out, right? If it turns out that I am equally qualified as the persons that they're sending, equally qualified,
Yeah.
and they choose to send me over that person because I'm a Jamaican and I'm an Olympian, who would argue about it?
I will be happy to have you going.
Who would argue about it?
Nobody.
Who would say that, boy, you shouldn't take him to take him is because of some favoritism because he's a Jamaican? Then who you think in America? Who you think they're going to take? You have somebody from China, you have somebody from Russia, and you have an American. Who you think they're going to take to the Olympics? You know who they're going to take? The American.
We know
You know
so
why?
that me not say nothing.
Because them care about them nationals. This is a national thing. When you deal with something national, you know, at a national level, you know, you're not just talking about looking for the best, you know. You're also looking for somebody who can assist that national agenda.
Dr. Gardner, you go into the Olympic, you look at those Olympic rings. You have a Jamaican, but when you look over the other side, the chiropractor is American. That now look on the Jamaican color right now. When you look at it with the Olympic ring, look very good. You know, it's a good fit, good match. Plus you know, being overqualified. And as I said, experience is not something that come easy. And you have experience along both line. On the field, up the field.
Yeah.
So you could basically go over there and be a field event coach, because as Ian have said, you have done many events. You could work with
Not only
many.
that, I mean, I was a coach. I coached for several years when I was coaching and when I was teaching, I was also coaching.
Man, there's something definitely wrong with the system.
It is a broken system.
Yeah.
I'm happy that we have a platform like this, Real Talk, Ian and here. We can just talk from the human standpoint. We are human beings, and you know.
The good thing about it, you know, the good thing about it is that my bread don't butter on what them do or don't do. You understand? They don't determine whether I'm gonna treat people yes or no. They can always try to sabotage if they want, but they won't do that, right? I'm hoping that they will. But the fact of the matter is it's just a matter of how it is that they view it. And for them to think that, I mean, if every year you're sending a different person and then this year is my year and then next year is a different person here, then that's fine. But it's every year they were sending the same white US chiropractor every year to all the world championships and to all the Olympics. This one person. So the question is, why would they send this person? That's not a question for me to answer. You understand what I'm saying? Why would they send this person? And Ian already know who the person is that I'm talking about, because Ian has been to the Olympics and this person was the chiropractor that was in charge of the team when Ian was there. Right? But the thing that hurt me the most is that that particular person was using the Jamaican team and the association with the Jamaican team to build his practice in Florida. And that, to me, that hurt me.
That hurt all right. You see, I'm an outsider here when it come on to the Olympics, when it come on to track and field. I said my little career was cut short by the little injury. And mommy said, guess what, boy, you better put it up. So with this, I would just, you know, so as a kind of outsider looking in, you know, we love to see the Jamaicans when you guys running and winning, you know. It is just a joyous feeling, just to know that we are in the Olympics. But I don't see the connection now. Just looking in, for us to have a Jamaican team down there, we want to beat the USA, but yes, we are using a US chiropractor working on our athlete who needs to go out there and beat their athlete. It don't too tie too well. if I am just looking in just like that, just a layman looking in.
It's a gamble. It's a gamble.
Yeah, it is
It's a
tricky.
gamble.
We understand
I
there's a
mean,
profession.
I don't question the integrity of the person, you know, right?
No, it's
And
not
I know,
integrity of the person.
and it's somebody that I know as well, and I know him to really love Jamaica. But so I wouldn't want to make it seem as though I'm
No,
saying that he would do that. But it's a risk.
no,
It's a risk.
I'm not
A
saying
risk
all that,
that they take.
Dr. Gardner. All I'm saying is the Olympics is a big event,
A
and
big thing.
probably I could do 6 athletes in a one day. I mean, I do 4, you know.
Yeah,
So we still have to do my work. But
yeah.
me understand where you come from. Put it that way there. But you know,
Trust me.
it just as I said, the layman looking in, because I'm a healthcare worker myself. I'm a nurse, so we know that when you guys go out there, you go out there with your heart. You know, you're wearing it on
Yep.
your sleeve, you're wearing it on your collar. You know, caring is all that it's about. So, but it just doesn't look good for the person who don't understand. You know, the whole medical world and all that stuff. It's just looking in. I would not see where it's fitting for us to have great Jamaican chiropractors. You know, we have a whole team. Cause I know your office, you have an office, you have team members there, you know, and we could put together a good team, and especially the fact that you are an Olympian, you know, is that you'll be giving back to the sports that you have benefited from. You know, that's just also a way.
The idea of this scholarship, you know, the idea for the scholarship for Olympians to be trained as chiropractors is so that they could go back to their member associations and to help sports through chiropractic. That's why the scholarship was there, though. This is why they invested the money to train me, is so that I could come back to Jamaica and offer chiropractic services to Olympians. You understand? This is my frustration, you know. This is it. So anybody who is an administrator for the J3s, you know, pass this information on to whoever, because
Look at Dennis Quest. Look at Dennis. Dennis is right, you know. Dennis is brainstorming over there. So
yeah,
Ian,
Look, Neil, I think.
1 minute there, Ian. You know,
Okay.
before we shift gear, Dr. Gardner, I want you to just tell us a little bit, move a little way from the chiropractic side of it, but go into the neuro part of it in terms of how important this side of it is.
All right.
The practice.
So there are different applications of neurology, right? But the one that applies most to sports, because we do persons with ADHD as well. We work with people with learning disabilities, people with tremors, people with Parkinson's. You know, we deal with different types of situations, different kinds of people. But as far as sports is concerned, anybody who has had a sports concussion or a traumatic brain injury, a mild traumatic brain injury, is the kind of person for whom their athletics can get thrown totally upside down. And so, with the training that I have, we can rehabilitate persons who've had traumatic brain injuries and try to get them back to playing. So, you talk about a sport like cricket. Somebody gets hit on the head with a cricket ball, they sit doubles for a little time, then they start to have migraine headaches, they start to have clumsiness, they start to realize that when the ball goes down and to the left, they can't catch it anymore. When the ball goes to the right, they can catch it, but they can't catch it if it goes down to the left. And nobody is able to figure out why it is that this person who was once a great fielder, every time the ball goes down to them left, them drop the catch. This is a brain issue. That is something that can be rehabilitated. There are specific areas of the brain that are involved in specific field of view or field of vision that you can rehabilitate with eye exercises, hand-eye coordination exercises, to get them back to normal.
Well, Dr. Gardner, you be careful when you talk here, because I may have to send some of our Jamaican cricketers to come up there, because
That is a sad thing because I see like
I got so much catch lately. So
there's
probably
some
somebody
cricketers
come
that I
on.
see. There's some cricketers that I see, right? That have some issues. I know one in particular, and every time he needs to drop catch. Not so bad these days. Every time he needs to drop catch, and when I look at it, it's the same area as him drop the catch. And when the ball go in another area, him fine. It's an easy. Usually, it's an easy fix.
But right there, that's what I'm saying, because I wasn't even thinking down that line, and as much as I'm in the
Ah,
medical field, I wasn't thinking up down that line. But today that was one of the question that was brought up in our game. I said, boy, we drop too much catches, and it's always the same man never drop the catch.
that's
So
right. And usually, it's something that you can correct,
yeah, so
especially if the catches are dropped in the same areas.
no, that's what I'm no, that I just said. I'm just reflecting on what's been happening in
Mm.
our team.
Because
Same type of people
you have
put them
to
in that.
your brain has to calculate at a certain speed. Think of it like this. If you open and close your eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do it fast, 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 it's as if your eyes are open all the time. Because it's not closed long enough for you to miss
To miss
anything.
anything. Yeah.
But if your blink rate slows down and you instead of blinking like that, you blink like this.
Okay. The ball go
Every
to
time your
Roger.
eye is closed, the ball is moving through the air. So by the time your eye open, the ball is in a different location from where you last saw it. And I'm just using blink rate to explain how your brain works. Because your brain works on a frequency of signals that go back and forth between your brain and your hand, your brain and your hand, your brain and your hand. If the speed at which it's doing it is much slower, then when your eye sees the ball, and then your brain is going to put your hand where it expects the ball to be so that you can catch the ball, then if that rate of firing in your brain is too slow in a particular plane, then whenever the ball is traveling in that direction, by the time your hand goes out to meet it, the ball done gone past it already.
But why Roger drop a catch today? I
I
think
can't understand why.
him not touch it. He come through
Yeah,
and me I say, what happened?
I don't know what happened neither.
No, me, seriously, no, no.
He
He
said,
come through.
the ball and put my hand in. No, do I even know me miss it?
He come through Roger here and said that ball could I even kill him, can hand no cat. Go nowhere and look like him see it for a minute and then it gone.
That is it. But these are things that can be corrected. And it can be corrected in young children. I remember when I was in Texas practicing, I had a couple of athletes working with, and one of them was a football player, and he couldn't catch. And after we started work with him, within about 3 weeks, he was catching the football, the American football, with one hand. Made some spectacular catch in some game, and everybody's all, ah! And this is somebody who is only like 2 weeks of rehab that we do. I mean, and this is just about catching, hand-eye coordination. We're not talking about frequency
Foot
of
that.
firing for the speed of running, for your turnover. We're not talking about imbalances in muscle tone that can lead to injuries.
Oh.
And these are all things. But it is what it is.
Man, I just want to say I'm proud of you, the work that you're doing. As I just said, the office is always full, appointment line up still. So, it's a good profession. A quick question I want to ask you, Dr. Gardner. Why don't we find more athletes getting into the field of chiropractic service?
Opportunity. That's the main reason. Opportunity. Most athletes are not afforded the opportunity to study it because they don't know of an avenue that can get them that. Because if you think about it, the only reason I was able to afford it is because of a scholarship. You understand? I don't have the kind of money. My parents are not no big scientist doctor with no big bank account that can send me to chiropractic school. I had to take out student loan on top of my I take out student loan for food on top of my scholarship to study, you know. You think this is a joke thing?
Yes.
It's a serious thing, you know. So it's not something that the average person just has access to or knows of the opportunity. So we will do whatever we can to assist younger Jamaicans in particular who might want to study chiropractic to be able to do so.
Yeah, and you have the floor, man, because I've learned a lot just now. You know, a lot. It's very this is a very powerful session here, you know. Dr. Gardner. I just want to say something. A record has been broken here again, you know. You're in the Guinness Book a record with Ian and Ian, right? You're the first person that we brought on from 6 o'clock and after 9 you're still on the program. So you got on the Guinness Book of Record. Ian, mark that down, okay?
Ines Turner is just sending a greeting to us. Ines is like a big sister, you know. And she's also one of the standout Christian athletes from high school days. I hope he's still walking with the Lord and trusting him in all areas of life. You know, I miss you very much. Miss you, sis.
Hear me, hear me. Ines Turner is one of the realest that came on the program. So if you miss Ines Turner, one, you have to go back, go rewind and go through Ian and Ian real talk and find Ines interview. She is just as real as you. So respect to Ines Turner. Thanks for coming on the program. Ian, back over to you.
All right, yeah. So we're thank you guys for tuning in. We're about to conclude the program. Just want to go over one quick thing. We could not come on here for 3 hours and not say one thing about the pandemic. I know that it's a pandemic that affecting the world, and I've got the pleasure to listen to one of Dr. Gardner show with Mrs. G. Uh, so guys, if after the show, and I'm gonna let Dr. Gardner tell you, but he has a show that he health talk that he talked about on Tuesdays evening. And what I want to get to, I just want you to give us a little light on vitamin D, it as it related to COVID, because I learned a lot from that, that program that I did not know, and I did some more reading. So just the fact that we're still dealing with the pandemic, and I know that there are different high risk people, there are different categories. Doc, what's your whole overview of the pandemic, of where we're at right now? Just tell us as it related to vitamin D, since you have done, just give us a
Sure.
little few minutes of the key thing that you would want the viewers to know about, how important the vitamin D is related to COVID.
Well, the first thing I'll share is as far as it relates to our show, it's Back to Health Talk Show, and we have this on Facebook. So the name of the show is Back to Health. Um, but it's on Facebook. It's go to Facebook and it's just Back to Health Talk Show, and it will take you there. It's every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Jamaica time for 1 hour, right? Um, vitamin D. So the what upsets me more than anything else is that most medical professionals have not taken the time to familiarize themselves with the research that is happening. And it's unfortunate, right? So you find that there are a lot of people who's giving bad advice, and there's a lot of fear associated with this whole COVID thing because of this bad advice. But there is good news because there is information that is it's well established now, having had enough studies that have now been published that confirms it, about what you can do to prevent yourselves or your families from having a severe course of COVID 19. What has come out is something that was known from the turn of the century, if you will, probably when I say turn of the century, I don't mean the 20th, the 21st century. I mean the 20th century, in the 1900s, when people used to have tuberculosis, and they would put the people out in the sun to sun them, basically, as the treatment for tuberculosis. And the reason they would sun them for the treatment is because sunlight, for whatever reason they didn't know then, when people had exposure to natural sunlight, especially in the bright hot sun, they recovered from tuberculosis, as well as, oh, it's back to health with a TO.
Okay. I straighten it. Okay.
Yeah, it used to be with the two, but I've changed it. Easier for people to remember. Right. Is that most persons, when they're in the sun, they recover from respiratory tract infections. And something interesting also occurred is that they realized that people who are exposed to sunlight, they do not contract colds so easily as people who are not exposed to the sunlight. So you've heard of there being a flu season. Flu season is like from October, November, going back to April, May, somewhere around there, March, April. And the reason for that is that during those times, the sun, especially in northern or far southern countries that are outside of the 30th parallel, or the 33rd parallel, which is latitude 33, those countries, the sun will be too low in the sky to make vitamin D in the skin during the winter months. And that is why people were getting flus during that time. It has very little to do with people just being inside all the time because of winter months. Because if you look at it, people are inside year round. So this is something that is very interesting and very important for persons to realize, is that if you expose yourself to 15 minutes of sunlight every day between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., if you're living in Jamaica or similar latitudes, or to know if you are getting the right sun exposure, then you have to make sure that the sun, there you are. You have to make sure that the sun is, that your shadow is shorter than your own height. So when you look at the ground, the shadow that is cast by the sunlight should be less than your height in its length. If that is the case, then the sun is the right angle to give you vitamin D. So 15 minutes of sunlight every day. Or you will need to take a vitamin D3 supplement. And how much will you need? You will need to take about 4,000 IUs of vitamin D3 every day. Or it works out to be, I think, 100 micrograms of vitamin D3 every day, depending on whichever units you're using. Either 4,000 international units or 100 micrograms of vitamin D3 every day, to make sure that you have enough vitamin D in your bloodstream to prevent yourself from getting severely sick from COVID-19 if you were to ever be exposed to it. And this is what the studies are showing, that if that's the case, then you seldom get really, really sick to need hospitalization. And even if you need hospitalization, your likelihood of needing intensive care treatment goes down to next to zero when you have a certain amount of vitamin D in your bloodstream.
Amen.
And vitamin D is free. Yet still they shut down our beaches, which is the one place that you have the most skin exposure in open air when nobody not breathing down your face, to get as much vitamin D as possible, and you shut down the sun. You shut down the beach. That don't make no sense.
Yeah. Well, thanks for shedding some light on that. I wasn't aware of shocking news. I didn't know the beaches were shut down. I thought
Yeah, man, the beaches have been shut down from how long now in Jamaica?
I
Unless
thought,
you're on the private resorts.
yeah,
Public beaches have been shut down, rivers have been shut down. You follow them.
yeah, I thought the beach would be a place that
Uh,
that would help.
Sometimes the more you know, the more you get headache, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And I have arguments with people who their primary source of information is news, what they hear on news and what they see on Facebook or YouTube. And that is them source of information. And then they use that to say, boy, I don't know what I'm talking about.
mm.
If they only knew how much research I've done in this thing,
Yeah.
I cannot say too much.
Very interesting.
Mm.
After the show, we gotta talk, Dr. Gardner.
Yeah, yeah,
Different.
yeah. So, one more question from me, Doc. Um, just thinking about your whole athletic career, how you want to remember as an athlete that accomplished so much, so much different chapter. How would you want to summarize or look back if you were supposed to give a blueprint of what you'd want Ian Weekly to think about you? I got my own version, but
Well, the great thing about athletics is that you have so many different events that you can choose from that may have a chance to capitalize on a strength that you may have, right? And sometimes it's just about finding the right sport or the right event. Sometimes it's not track and field, sometimes it's football, sometimes it's cricket. But just finding the right atmosphere or the avenue in sport, the outlet. But what I want persons to know and to take away is that when I was a young boy, I was not considered somebody who would ever be the person that you would think of as being a track star in anything. Um, my athletic ability was limited to say the very least, but through consistency of work, it's not how hard you work, it's how consistently you work. If you want to travel a very far distance, you can get up now and just run a sprint in that direction as hard as you can. But then the cost to that is that you're gonna be in a lot of pain and you're probably going to have to stop and recover. Or you might not even reach your destination. Remember, Ian, you were running that 500 meters.
Get a
But I'm
crash.
sure that that same 500 meters would have been very easy for you if you just walked it. So to arrive at a destination requires more consistency of effort than arduous work. It's not how hard you work to get to success, it's how consistently you work. That's the most important thing to success now. Not hard work. Hard work is not what's going to lead you to success. It's consistency of work. That's what leads to success. As Mikey Olivier jumps online, big up yourself. Former coach to one Ian Weekly.
And Ian Thomas.
Oh yes, that's right.
I was recruited from the hills by Mike Oliver. I was pretty good in at all age school. So when I heard somebody calling me in the hills, they said, "Man, you need to go and take the states entrance. Mike Oliver sent for you and a few more kids." I'm like, "What?" I didn't even know that Mercy have eyes on me just running the bushes there in South St. Elizabeth. But, I can say one thing about Mike Oliver, and I'm gonna say it publicly, just taking a little minute from you, is that no matter where you are in Jamaica, you could be in the hills of St. Mary's, St. Thomas, Portland, down in Montego Bay, where Ian from, the south side. This man is gonna find you once he sees a little bit of talent. Because guess what? Once you get you to states between him, Mr. Dunswell, and Junior Bennett, they're gonna turn you into something. Put it that way. they'll make you into a super athlete, and he's gifted for that. So we just want to big up Mike Olivier, and I always tell people, if it wasn't for coach, I probably would never have end up at States, because my dream in life, Dr. Gardner, was to travel Canada like my father. 'Cause he used to travel and farmer. I did not have anybody around me to mentor me or anything. Everything is that I always see the pretty shoes them come, the red apple. And I am going to school with some nice khaki and all that stuff. Look good. And that's all I wanted to do, is to travel farmer. I never thought about no school or thing, but I was saved by Mike Olivier when they sent for me, and I went down to States. But as you would have done pretty well in school, I was pretty good with the book, even though I didn't study much, but I was pretty talented. I remember when I got there, Mike Olivier would say, Ian, there's much more in you, because you came into the school one of the highest average as an athlete, And surprisingly, I didn't do common entrance. And I don't know, I asked mommy up to this day, what happened? How did I not do common entrance as a little young boy? But I don't know. My heart was far from even going to high school. It was all about traveling Canada and the red apple and the pretty shoes and everything. But Mike Olivier, thanks for saving this one. All right? That's how I find the wife too, right here at States. And I gotta say something else, Ian. I think I am one of the lucky one, Coach never come hunting me down after that, when I decided that, guess what? I'm not doing no more track and field. But instead he said to me, Ian, whenever you get your first child, but coach, it take many years. He said, just send the kid, come and I'll coach the kid. But coach, I have two little fast ones, so I don't know if you're gonna move over to Miami here. I have to send them to IDOT camp. But respect Mike Olivier.
That track club.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh boy, I tell you. Well, thanks, gentlemen. It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun. And Ian is my brother from long time. Trust me. It's far we're coming from, Ian.
Yep, over 30 years. Over 30 years still, and we're still counting.
I was still counting. I was still counting. So we're grateful. We're grateful.
Yeah.
My brother. Blessings.
Well, yeah, I can't say any much. I'm not even going to use this time here to stretch out the program anymore. But I'm just going to say, just very simple. We thank you for spending the last 3 hours, 3.5 hours with us. We hope that this program here inspire, and at somebody might watch it later on, at some other time next week, next year, and hopefully they might find something in it that benefit them. And we want to wish you all the best. Continue your hard work with your practice, and everything that the future holds for you. In sports, in just helping. From the new birth to the elderly, in every single way. And I know God is using you as a shining light to help. Just to enrich, as you said before, your goal is to enrich others. And enrich your life. So thank you, man. May God bless you and keep you in every single way. And just keep you going and continue to do the good work.
Amen, my brothers.
All right.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
All right.
Thank you for being here, man.
All right.